Chapter 981. The teams of 10 were only a few hundred meters away from the army of soul beasts before they stopped. It was as if they were a single entity. All of the long-range soul masters unleashed dazzling energy attacks into the air with the support of the auxiliary-type soul masters. Among them, the main attributes were wind and fire. However, they weren't attacking the soul beast army, but Douluo. At the same time, several soul Douluo appeared beside Douluo. These soul Douluo's soul rings flickered, and 3 of them poured their energy into Douluo's body. In an instant, Douluo's body shone brightly. The Jade Qilin Serpent Emperor's martial soul true body appeared, and an abyss-like Jade Qilin light condensed in its mouth. At the same time, a dark green light gathered in his eyes. The 3 soul Douluo poured their soul power into Douluo. The other 3 soul Douluo formed a special triangular formation in midair. Following this, the 3 of them looked at each other, and their soul rings lit up. One of them immediately unleashed his martial spirit. This soul Douluo's martial soul was the silver funnel. It was an extremely special tool, martial soul. This kind of martial soul's power was extremely trashy and weak. Even a most common saber, sword, or scythe martial spirit was stronger than this tool, martial spirit. This was because it was a rare martial soul with a special ability. This kind of tool martial spirit was of little value to a single person. However, if it was used in a war or in a group battle, then it would be a great killing weapon. It had a very powerful ability. It could absorb any energy attack and fuse it into an even more powerful soul skill. It was the silver funnel martial soul from the Star Luo Empire. It was known as the Star Luo Empire's strategic weapon. In this war, it could be said to have played a great role. The silver funnel martial soul revealed its martial soul true body in midair, while the other 2 soul Douluo were auxiliary-type soul Douluo. Both of them were from the Alliance, and only the martial soul palace could produce auxiliary-type soul Douluos, although it was weaker than the 7 treasures glazed pagoda. However, the high rank of their soul power meant that they couldn't be too weak. Tang Wulin's martial soul true body appeared, and he was being reinforced by the 2 auxiliary-type soul Douluos. The enormous silver light funnel was at least 60 to 70 meters long. 8 soul rings flickered, and one side of the funnel absorbed the long-range attacks unleashed by the countless long-range soul masters below. Like a huge mouth, it instantly absorbed all kinds of dazzling attacks from below. Following this, the funnel flickered with light, and 8 soul rings lit up one after another, as if they were fusing with the essence of the boundless energy. In the next moment, an intense beam of silver light shot out from the mouth of the funnel towards the soul beast several hundred meters away. At the same time, the Jade Qilin divine light shot out from the mouth of the Jade Qilin Serpent Emperor. These 2 pillars of light were like 2 long dragons as they blasted towards the army of soul beasts at the edge of the far north. 2 figures in black robes sat quietly on a 100-meter-tall tree. Of course, this tree wasn't an ordinary tree. It was a soul beast, an ice bamboo ink jade tree. It was extremely slender, and from afar, it looked like a stick. The 2 figures were very far away from the battle line. However, he could still see. Blood River, you naive humans. You seem to want to find trouble with us? The 2 figures were tightly wrapped in black robes, and their appearances couldn't be seen. At this moment, one of the figures said indifferently, "There's nothing we can do. Who asked us to be the boss?" The figure called Blood River shook his head and said, "They don't know that even if they kill us, these soul beasts that have been poisoned by the blood soul poison won't be able to recover." "Oh, that's right. There should be someone who can recover. In the far north, there haven't been any soul beasts that have been poisoned by the blood soul poison to join this army of soul beasts. The blood soul poison in the ice river of the far north has been completely absorbed. It's really amazing. Even that continent has no one who can resolve the blood soul poison, but there's actually someone who can resolve it in our hometown." The man called Blood River sighed. "Blood Sea, if our ancestor knows about this, do you think he'll be so angry that he'll crawl out of his coffin?" The man called Blood Sea was silent for a while. The blood soul poison was something that their ancestor had researched for his entire life. Countless years ago, he was expelled by that angel martial soul expert on this continent. He had always been focused on researching and wholeheartedly wanted to return to this continent to take revenge. Unfortunately, he died. How big is the ice river of the far north? To be able to resolve it in such a short period of time, it's really inconceivable. Blood River looked into the distance and laughed. Fortunately, I used the 4 blood soul bones that our ancestor gave you back then to execute the ultimate soul skill that our ancestor created, the blood soul origin poison. No, this shouldn't be considered poison anymore. With the addition of the 2 overlords of the far north, the soul beast army is simply unstoppable. Mother of Asterisk Kerr, why didn't you use your own blood soul bone to execute it back then? When Bloodsea heard this, he scolded. Because of you, my cultivation hasn't recovered yet. Who asked me to be stronger than you? Blood River couldn't help but laugh. Furthermore, we've collected and absorbed quite a lot of blood these days. No matter what, a few tidal Douluo will die later. At that time, after absorbing their blood, you could just choose a few more soul bones to refine them into blood soul bones. Anyway, so many soul beasts and humans have died here. Are you afraid that your cultivation won't recover? Blood River looked forward. On the battlefield in front, intense soul power undulations were suddenly emitted. It was the aura of a tidal Douluo. Why isn't there anyone who can fight? Blood River felt the soul power undulations in front. After nurturing the soul blood for more than 10 days, I was just worried that I didn't have a place to release it. None of these tidal Douluo can compare to our ancestor. Didn't they say that our hometown still has 3 exceptional Douluo? Why isn't any of them here? Could it be that the commotion we caused wasn't big enough? Blood River's tone was somewhat regretful. Why isn't the successor of the angel martial soul here? Blood River sighed and shook his head. If this goes on, just the 2 of us will be able to conquer this continent that our ancestor once suffered a defeat. Our ancestor's coffin definitely won't be able to hold it down. The 2 overlords of the far north are too strong. Blood River said, in addition to this soul beast army, there are a few 100,000-year soul beasts that are quite strong. Among them, the one known as the Cyan Emperor has a huge amplification effect on these soul beasts. The soul beasts that were already poisoned by the blood soul poison can become even more berserk. Speaking of which, if the Cyan Emperor and the other overlords had caught us together back then, we wouldn't have been able to use the blood soul poison. We might not be able to unleash the blood soul origin poison. I reckon we'll be the ones defeated now. Blood River laughed heartily after hearing that. It's a pity. Although they don't directly listen to our orders now, they are still indirectly controlled by the blood soul poison. End of this chapter. Chapter 982. I have to say, this feeling is really wonderful. Although 3 of them died, we can say that they died a worthy death. Blood River pointed to the front. Indeed, they died worthy. Under the black robe, Shuehai's eyes flickered with a few strange lights. Their souls have fused with the blood soul poison and turned into the current soul beast army. Oh, these tidal Douluo don't seem weak. They have broken through a few layers of defense and seem to have discovered us. Shuehai, is it time? Blood River nodded slightly. The next moment, countless amounts of blood flowed out from the 2 of them, looking extremely strange and terrifying. Blood wriggled on their bodies. As the 9 soul rings shone, the 2 people wrapped in blood underwent a huge change. Not long after, 2 ordinary soul beasts gently jumped down from the top of the tree, in the distance in the sky. It was accompanied by a loud and clear cry. The blizzard-frozen spirit bird, whose body was more than 10 meters long, gently flapped its wings. An endless ice domain covered the sky, and a frenzied blizzard fell from the sky. Every snowflake was like a spinning sharp blade, cutting the air and turning this space into an ice hell, strangling together. The only advantage of human soul masters was that they were hard to defeat. Because these soul beasts were infected by the blood soul poison, although their strength increased greatly, they didn't know how to cooperate. Therefore, they could defeat them in the previous 10 days of battle. Even this powerful frozen spirit bird was the same. However, these soul beasts were now covered in a layer of faint golden light. Their strength increased explosively. On the basis of the blood soul poison, they became stronger again. Even their consciousness seemed to be clearer, and they knew how to cooperate. This was also one of the reasons why they were defeated yesterday. Polar stillness domain. In the distance, the two Dalu, Gui and Ju, seemed to have fused as one. Their soul rings merged, and they directly used their martial soul fusion skill. The endless snowstorm froze in midair, and those sharp and cold swirling snowflakes also froze in place. Two fierce roars sounded. In midair, a tiger eagle with golden light flashing all over its body descended from the sky. Its wings covered the sky and seemed to be even larger than the frozen spirit bird. Tiger Eagle Martial Soul. It was the guest elder of the star Luo Empire's imperial family, Hamada Douluo. He was also known as the Tiger Eagle Douluo. Those claws were only 3 to 4 meters long, and they could easily tear apart any large soul beast. In his martial soul true body state, the Tiger Eagle Douluo's aura was extremely powerful, even though it was slightly inferior to the frozen spirit bird. However, this wasn't the Tiger Eagle Douluo. Kill this beast. In the distance, there was a purple mist savage beast that was over 40 meters long. It had ferocious fangs in its mouth, and 9 soul rings were flickering around its body. It also had a pair of transparent wings on its back. It was the sect leader of the Battle Luo sect, Zhan Ao Tian. His martial spirit was Zhan Xiaoyan's Zhan Ming beast martial spirit before it had mutated. In comparison, it was much weaker than Zhan Xiaoyan's Zhan Ming beast. However, Zhan Aoyan was a titled Dalu who was over rank 90. Naturally, Zhan Xiaoyan couldn't compare to him. This kind of giant beast was even more useful on the battlefield. Their only weakness was that they were extremely weak in aerial combat. These giant beasts were only good at fighting on the ground. Fortunately, with Oscar's help, Zhan Xiaoyan could temporarily fight in the air. The Ghost Chrysanthemum Daluo's dual static domain was effective against this frozen spirit bird, but it wouldn't last very long. At the same time, seeing that the blizzard frozen spirit bird had been restrained, several soul beasts that were 80 to 90,000 years old immediately attacked Zhan Aoyan and He Yutian. One of them directly attacked the Ghost Chrysanthemum Daluo, who was using a martial soul fusion skill. Seeing this, Zhan Xiaoyan roared. He had already gotten used to flying a few days ago. He clenched his tree-like arms into fists, and his soul rings flickered. His immense strength directly sent the soul beasts that wanted to save their master flying. This gave the Tiger Eagle Daluo an opportunity to attack. He didn't want to kill this frozen spirit bird, but he wanted to severely injure it. This was because Tang San and the others were already searching for the 2 evil soul masters. They had to restrain these powerful 100,000-year soul beasts. Bang, bang, bang. With Zhan Xiaoyan's current strength, his soul skills were almost all related to strength. When he punched with his fists, he could even break a mountain into 2. Several 80 to 90,000-year soul beasts were smashed into the army of soul beasts in the distance, creating countless cracks in their formation. However, Zhan Xiaoyan looked at the wound on his hand and furrowed his brow. When he smashed into one of the soul beasts, he was also injured. Although it was only a superficial wound, his opponent's attack contained blood soul poison. This blood soul poison had a certain effect on humans, but it wasn't very strong. It had a certain effect on them. It wasn't serious. At this moment, the Tiger Eagle Daluo's attack also landed on the frozen spirit bird, but at this moment swoosh. In the army of soul masters below, a beast shadow suddenly appeared and attacked Zhan Xiaoyan. Seeing this, Zhan Xiaoyan focused his gaze. It wasn't a very big soul beast, and its entire body was icy blood-colored. It was a very ordinary soul beast. Zhan Xiaoyan furrowed his brow. Such a weak soul beast dared to rush to its death in the face of his aura? This doubt flashed through his mind. That icy, blood-colored soul beast was extremely fast and had already arrived in front of him. Without much time to think, Zhan Xiaoyan directly punched. In the next moment, The moment his fist landed on the soul beast, Tang Wulin's eyes lit up. But it was directly melted in. It was as if he had hit a sponge. His entire arm went through. Zhang Xiaotian was stunned. Immediately after, he saw the eyes of the ordinary, blood-colored soul beast that looked like a leopard. A strange smile appeared on its face. Not good. Zhang Xiaotian wanted to retract his hand, but he realized that all the soul power in his body, along with his blood, was rapidly disappearing from his arm. Zhang Xiaotian was horrified. He decisively used his other arm to cut off the arm of Yi Futian. In an instant, with his arm broken, his martial soul, true body state immediately dissipated. You're quite decisive. The blood river turned into a ray of icy, blood-colored divine light. If you stay a little longer under my 8th soul skill, Unlimited Blood Devour, I guarantee that all the blood in your body will be sucked dry. He condensed his palm and directly blasted out a blood-colored ball of light. It landed on Zhang Xiaotian. Boom! The ball of light exploded, and Zhang Xiaotian's figure was directly sent flying. His entire body was bleeding profusely. Immediately after, Blood River, who had disguised himself as a soul beast, attacked the two Douluo again. Blood River was extremely fast. Without Zhang Xiaotian's obstruction, he immediately turned into a ray of blood-colored light and burst out several blood balls. Continuous rumbling sounds reverberated throughout the entire sky. But it wasn't the battle situation where Blood River was. Instead, it was the battle with the two 100,000-year soul beasts on the other side. Blood River. This fellow is wasting too much time. Blood River's peripheral vision was subtle, and he saw streaks of blood-colored halos exploding in another battlefield above the army of soul beasts. End of chapter. Chapter 983. Not only did it engulf the 200,000-year soul beasts, but it also engulfed Shrek and the rest who were fighting them. At the same time, the ball of blood that Blood River shot out also landed in front of the two Douluo. It suddenly exploded. The two of them had just used their martial soul fusion skill, and before they could react to Zhang Xiaotian's situation, they were directly blown up in this ball of blood. Fortunately, the two of them were not poisoned by the blood soul poison, and the explosion of this ball of light directly blew them away. Their domains came into contact instantly. The frozen spirit bird suddenly cried out in agony. It was the tiger eagle Douluo's claws that left two bloody wounds that were several meters long. The bloody wounds caused it, which had just recovered from the dual stasis domain, to become even more frenzied. However, the tiger eagle Douluo did not stop. He threw away the flesh on his claws and spread his wings like a rock, directly wrapping around the frozen spirit bird. After that, he soared into the sky, and his sharp beak pierced into the back of the frozen spirit bird's neck. Under the pain, the frozen spirit bird frantically struggled, and countless frosts spread out from its body. However, it could not break free from the tiger eagle Douluo's restraint. After charging into midair, the tiger eagle Douluo let out a long cry and was about to throw the frozen spirit bird down. When Blood River saw this, a strange look flashed across his eyes. His entire body was covered in blood once again, and his body underwent a huge change. He directly turned into a blood-colored energy arrow that shot towards the tiger eagle Douluo. A bloody light flashed. The tiger eagle Douluo, who was in mid-air, instantly noticed Blood River. To be precise, when Zhang Xiaotian was attacked, he had already noticed it. However, that was because he had to attack the frozen spirit bird. Otherwise, he would be the one being attacked. When he saw the arrow of blood, the tiger eagle dog didn't even hesitate before tossing the frozen spirit bird towards this strange soul beast that had appeared out of nowhere. Whoosh! However, the blood arrow directly pierced through the frozen spirit bird's body, creating a huge bloody hole. However, his speed was even faster. The tiger eagle Douluo was stunned. What soul beast is this? Could it not be a soul beast? This is... The sudden increase in speed of the blood arrow caught him off guard, and he could only use his wings as a shield to barely block it. It was a pity that the strength of this blood arrow was extremely terrifying. The The soul rings that flickered caused the tiger eagle Dalu to be stunned. It's a title Dalu, an evil soul master. The tiger eagle Dalu's pupils contracted, and he let out a long cry. It was like a warning. The moment his wings were penetrated, the tiger eagle Dalu's martial soul, true body disappeared. His entire body seemed to be engulfed in a bloody mist. At this moment, a golden light shone. It was directly enveloped in the blood mist. Instantly, the blood mist disappeared at a visible speed, and the tiger eagle Dalu was revealed. However, he was covered in injuries. The blood mist condensed and turned into the figure of Blood River. In the distance, Tang Sen stared coldly at the Blood River. This evil soul master has finally revealed himself. However, this evil soul master was indeed cunning. He had disguised himself as a soul beast and injured 4 title Douluo at the critical moment. Moreover, it was not a light injury. Tang Sen looked into the distance, where Shrek's group and the 200,000-year soul beasts were shrouded in blood-red light. His heart sank. He searched for a long time, but he couldn't find any trace of this evil soul master. Earlier, the Frost Ape had said that these 2 evil soul masters had disguised themselves as soul beasts and attacked and bewitched his boss, the Titan Snow Demon Ape. I should have expected this. Tang Sen looked at the falling tiger eagle Douluo and felt a chill in his heart. He was already exhausted when he rushed over. This was because the sword Dalu and bone Dalu had greatly underestimated the abilities of the 2 soul beasts when they were entangled with them. The green divine bird had not even made a move. The Snow Empress had completely suppressed the sword Dalu and bone Dalu. If not for Ning Fengji's support, the 2 title Dalu would have been defeated even faster. His plan had met with a huge obstacle. Tang Sen did not expect these 2 evil soul masters to take the initiative to attack. This was because they had not revealed themselves in the previous 10 days of fighting. They had only used this army of soul beasts to attack Icefield City. However, they had disguised themselves as soul beasts and severely injured 4 title Dalu. If he had not arrived in time, the tiger eagle Douluo's life would have been in danger. Furthermore, there was another evil soul master on the other side of the battlefield. He had disrupted the battle between Ma Hongjun, Dai Mubai, and the 200,000-year soul beasts. The situation was even worse. The aura of a god. Blood River looked at Tang Sen, and a trace of greed flashed across his eyes. As one of the top evil soul masters, he had been chased to that barren continent to drink blood and eat meat. He had lived a life that was neither human nor beast. After countless years of cultivation, he had finally reached his current realm. He was no stranger to gods. No wonder he's not affected by the environment. Blood River chuckled softly and turned to run. He did not have the demeanor of an expert. Tang Sen was stunned, and a trace of cold light flashed across his eyes. How could he let him escape just like that? The soul beast army was so strong now, and it was all because of the blood soul poison. So many people and soul beasts had died because of this evil soul master. It was impossible to let him escape just like that. In the next moment, the soul rings on Tang Sen's body shone, and his 9th soul ring lit up. 2 green dragon shadows lit up from his body and darted out, transforming into 2 green dragon shapes that were several meters long and flew towards Blood River. 9th soul skill, blue-silver green dragon bind. As if locked on, Blood River did not escape from the entanglement of these 2 green dragon shapes. Shuttling through space, Tang Sen released his soul skills while flying towards Blood River's direction at an extremely fast speed. But the moment the 2 green dragon shapes entangled Blood River's body directly turned into countless blood plasma and broke free from the powerful control effect of this soul skill. Tang Sen was startled. He was rank 98. Unless the opponent's overall strength was stronger than his, it was impossible to break free from the control effect of this move. Then, as expected, this evil soul master was definitely a rank 99 existence. Furthermore, his martial soul was extremely strange. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to break free from such a powerful control soul skill in an instant. This was the strongest control-type soul skill among all of his soul rings. Even this move was useless. Tang San's heart sank. Ha! Blood River let out a loud laugh, but he did not stay and directly escaped. This was the wisest choice. That was because the Soul Beast army only had one value to him. If all of them died, it would be a good thing for him. He escaped, but Tang San could not give chase. If he did not give chase, the evil Soul Master would disappear, and this battle would be meaningless. If he gave chase, what would he do with the worsening situation? For title Douluo were seriously injured and needed immediate treatment. Dai Mubai and the others were also entangled by another evil Soul Master. Within that bloody light, Xiao Wu's sense of danger seemed to appear in Tang San's heart. End of chapter. Chapter 984. At the same time, the Sword Dalu, Bone Dalu, and Ning Fengji were also at a disadvantage as they fought against the Snow Empress. The situation wasn't good. The Soul Beast army's frenzy was getting stronger. Old Dugu and the Emperor Martial Soul Master army had already used their strongest moves, and their resistance was limited. The situation wasn't good for all parties. If they chased, they might not be able to catch up. Even if they could catch up, could they kill him? His strongest control wasn't very effective against this evil Soul Master. The only effective thing was the light of the Sea God and the 3 forms of the 13 golden halberds. Because when he released the Tiger Eagle Douluo earlier, the light of the Sea God had a great purifying and restraining effect on the blood fog. But the accuracy of the 3 forms of the 13 golden halberds was very low. His opponent was too strong. Unless someone could help to restrict him, thoughts flashed across Tang San's mind. Right at this moment, a clear chirp suddenly rang out. Hearing this sound, Tang San felt that something was wrong. This sound seemed to be the voice of that green divine bird. Previously, she hadn't made a move. She was more like a guardian beast, giving the countless Soul Beast army a strong berserk ability to make them stronger. Even if she didn't make a move, she could still play a decisive role in making them stronger. Furthermore, she was always together with the Snow Empress and couldn't break through the Snow Empress defense to attack her. The thing that Tang San was extremely worried about was this green divine bird. Once she took the initiative to attack, the situation would change drastically. In the next moment, endless golden light enveloped from afar. In that instant, the countless soul beasts entered a temporary state of stagnation. A stream of golden light shot out from the forehead of the azure divine bird. And the location where it shot out, it was the location where the evil Soul Master had escaped. Boom! Under the golden light, the green divine bird, which was stained with blood, let out a loud cry again. The golden light instantly turned into a cage, imprisoning Shui. Shui looked at the green divine bird in astonishment. How is this possible? This soul beast wasn't corroded by the blood soul origin poison? Impossible. This is impossible. The aura on her body is the aura of the blood soul origin poison. How can she attack me? The energy shot out from between the green bird's eyebrows. On the other side, Tang San was also stunned. In the next moment, he made his move, because an intermittent telepathic message rang out. Do it. I can't hold on for too long. Don't let him go. Otherwise, you won't be able to find him again. The shock in his heart was suppressed by Tang San. This was too strange. Has this green divine bird been waiting for evil soul masters to appear ever since it appeared here? Give him a fatal blow? She wasn't controlled by the blood soul poison? Was he a spy among the soul beasts? Unpredictable storm, never to return. Without any hesitation, Tang San used these 2 divine skills in succession. Without a doubt, this was his current control-type skill that surpassed his Soul Ring's soul skills, as well as his offensive skill. Blood River, who was enveloped by the golden cage, was directly hit by Unpredictable Storm's powerful control skill. The time limit was at least 4 seconds. Then, he left and never returned. This was a powerful attack that required a lot of energy. This was the soul skill that could directly kill the weakened demigod Bibidon. The sea god's trident emitted an intense golden light, like a setting sun, and directly blasted through Blood River. The endless golden light seemed to annihilate everything. Tang Sen panted heavily. These two divine skills consumed a lot of energy for him. The main reason was that he had fought before. But no matter what, this evil soul master couldn't possibly survive this move. At this moment, the blood mist at Dai Mubai's side directly exploded. The 200,000-year soul beasts seemed to have turned into skin and bones as they fell to the ground, scattering into countless broken bones. As for Dai Mubai and the rest, they were directly blasted out along with the explosion of the blood mist. Everyone suffered different degrees of injuries. A black-robed figure stood on the spot, but his aura was much weaker than Blood River's. It's not that easy to kill Blood River just like that. Blood River looked at Tang San's position and shook his head. As long as the blood soul poison doesn't extinguish, he won't die, he whispered faintly, as if no one could hear him. But in the next moment, the soul beasts in the soul beast army below began to disintegrate one by one, and the corpses of the soul beasts that died in the past few days on the ground also began to dissolve. They dissolved in the blood. Countless amounts of blood, like a long dragon, instantly converged into a long river and poured into the location of the explosion of the golden light. Tang San was startled, and an ominous premonition arose in his heart. Break! Under Tang San's control, the blue-silver domain quickly enveloped a radius of several hundred meters. Countless blue-silver grass formed a row and quickly blocked the countless long dragons of blood. But this blood was extremely corrosive and contained the blood soul poison. Even Tang San's blue-silver emperor was directly corroded and penetrated by this blood. Tang San was startled. Ha ha ha! Ninth soul skill. As long as the blood soul is not extinguished, I will not be extinguished. That strange laughter in the endless bloodlight swallowed the golden light and recovered. A rank 98 deity position successor who hasn't even inherited a complete deity position wants to use a divine skill to kill me? Blood River's figure condensed again. More than half of the soul beasts' corpses below were gone, but those soul beasts were even more berserk. Boom! In the distance, the sword Douluo and the bone Douluo were frozen. They landed on the ground. Ningfengji was blown more than 1,000 meters away by a gust of icy wind. In the center, the aura of the human-shaped soul beast surged, as if even the space was frozen. A blood-colored long sword appeared in her hand. Endless light gathered. The soul beast army below, which had been stagnant, started to riot again. They rushed towards Icefield City in a frenzied manner. The frozen spirit bird, which was originally heavily injured, seemed to ignore its injuries at this moment and crazily cried out. Tang San's heart was slightly cold. He looked to the other side, and the green divine bird was also the same, as if it had completely lost its consciousness. It began to emit golden light, stimulating the soul beast army below. Under such circumstances, the Emperor Martial Soul Master Army couldn't even escape unscathed. In an instant, Blood River, who had revived after absorbing the blood soul poison from the soul beast corpses, turned the situation around again. Looking at the endless soul beast army, looking at all the titled Doa who were heavily injured in the distance, and looking at the Emperor Martial Soul Master Army that was in a serious decline, looking at the Icefield City that had already been broken, Tang San's heart sank to the bottom. How to fight? Not only did the plan fail, they were now facing the crisis of being completely wiped out. The strength of these two evil soul masters had far exceeded their expectations. What was even more terrifying was the soul beast army. It was simply unstoppable, not to mention this evil soul master. Tang San couldn't think of a way at this moment. However, at this moment, in the distance, a familiar scarlet-green light shone, and above that scarlet-green light, there was a white flag. And Blood River looked into the distance and frowned slightly. In the next moment, as that white flag floated in midair, 8 rays of light shot out from the white flag. In an instant, 8 figures emitting powerful auras appeared in mid-air. Roar! Roars that reached the clouds resounded throughout the entire sky. That huge figure, at this moment, shocked everyone's line of sight. The rioting soul beasts below were also shaken. P.S. There should be 2 more chapters. End of this chapter. Chapter 985. Below Glacier City. Under the attacks of the even more violent soul beasts, the retreating Emperor Martial Soul Master Army looked up at the 8 huge beast shadows that had suddenly appeared in mid-air. These 8 huge figures suddenly appeared in mid-air. It was simply too shocking. Among them, the largest one was easily over 100 meters in size. It covered the sky. That black gold body was like a steel fortress as it stood horizontally in mid-air. Its wingspan was more than 100 meters. Its faint shadow covered the soul beasts and soul masters on the battlefield below. It made the shock on their faces even clearer. What is this? Douluo looked at the huge beast in midair and was extremely shocked. Could it be the reinforcements from the soul beast army? There are 8 of them, and each of them has 100,000-year cultivation. Hasn't the blood soul poison disappeared and can't be replenished? Why are there reinforcements? The aura of 100,000-year soul beast couldn't be wrong, although it was a little far away. With Douluo's strength, he could naturally feel the strength of these 800,000-year soul beasts. There were actually so many 100,000-year soul beasts in the extreme north. What kind of concept was this? Not to mention these 800,000-year soul beasts. Just the number of titled Douluo on their side was far from enough. We're finished. The soul Douluo with the silver funnel from the star Luo Empire was a little pale. The situation was not good. Now, there were 800,000-year soul beasts. Looking at their auras, they were probably not to be trifled with. The soul beasts in the extreme north were too abnormal. No, Douluo frowned slightly. That scarlet-green light and that flag seemed to be little lunatics, soul bone, and martial soul. Just as he was thinking about this, right at this moment, the soul beast army in the distance suddenly went berserk. The heavily injured frozen spirit bird seemed to be unaware of its death. It led several powerful soul beasts and charged towards the Emperor Martial Soul Master Army with blood flowing all over its body. Like a blood-colored tide, the Soul Beast Army surrounded the Emperor Martial Soul Master Army, which was retreating. Intense, icy light burst out from the Soul Beast Army. Like a meteor shower, they rained down on the legion of Soul Masters without any pattern. The attacks of Soul Beasts weren't organized, and they weren't like the attacks of Soul Master legions, which allowed them to unleash greater strength. However, there were so many of them that it was impossible to guard against them. The frozen spirit bird screeched, and the blizzard that tore through the air came crashing down on the legion of Emperor-ranked Soul Masters. Without the protection of a titled Douluo, such an attack was lethal. Although the frozen spirit bird was severely injured, this level of attack was much weaker. However, it was difficult for the exhausted Soul Master Legion to resist. Coupled with the increasingly berserk Soul Beast, there was simply no chance of resisting. Zhang Xiaotian sent a Soul Beast flying with a single punch. He stood back to back with the rest of the team members as he watched the incoming Soul Beasts, as well as the slowly falling snowstorm. Every spinning snowflake tore through the air and landed on their bodies. Countless flowers of blood would blossom, and countless lives would be reaped. There were Soul Beasts and Soul Masters. Boss, I don't want to die. The Golden Wish Tree Soul Master, Yufeng, had his back to Zhang Xiaotian as he muttered, "My brother is already dead. If I die," Zhang Xiaotian remained silent. Losing an arm was a huge blow to his abilities. It wasn't easy for him to last until now. Their team was still all right, and their fighting strength was extremely tenacious. Many other small teams had already been separated by those berserk soul beasts that were glowing with faint golden light. Fortunately, the small teams could quickly regroup with one another. Their small team had already changed 2 batches of people. It was because of this that every small team could maintain their fighting strength. They hadn't been completely defeated yet. I don't want to die either. Jean Xiaotian looked at the snowflakes in midair and stepped on the corpses on the ground. His face was covered in blood. But if we don't die, more people will die. At this moment, an intense, icy light came crashing down. It was like a soul beast that didn't know fatigue. Endless long-range attacks rained down on them. At this moment, in the air, the largest of the 8 soul beasts let out a long howl. A soul beast that was as big as a mountain landed on the ground from midair. Rumble! A glacier mountain that was dozens of meters tall rose from the ground. It was a giant ice beast that was 30 meters tall. When it landed on the ground, the ice and snow seemed to tremble. Roar! Xin Bing stepped on the ground, and ice walls that looked like city walls rose up from the countless ice and snow on the ground. She blocked the attacks of these soul beasts. With Shun Bing as the center, all the soul beasts within a kilometer radius seemed to be frozen and unable to move. Rows of ice walls that were hundreds of meters tall blocked most of the Soul Master legions. It looked extremely shocking. At the same time, in midair, the Blackwater crocodile and Odontosuchus spread their wings and shone with intense light. Hurricane frowned. The whistling wind instantly blew away the blizzard cast by the frozen spirit bird. Under the force of the hurricane, the soul beasts that had surrounded the army of soul masters were all blown away and scattered in all directions. In the sky, the thunder spirit fox stepped on the void. 9 purple foxtails flickered and thunder clouds rolled. Bolts of lightning that were as thick as buckets struck down from its body. The light purple thunder domain formed an arc in midair from the thunder spirit fox's body and enveloped the area below. The lightning that rushed past landed on the ice and snow ground. Whether it was flying-type soul beasts or soul beasts on the ice and snow ground. At this moment, all of them were paralyzed by this boundless thunder domain. Xin Bing's earth domain and the thunder spirit fox's thunder domain. Odontosuchus's snow wind domain and the Blackwater crocodile's Blackwater domain. They were all extremely large domains. Combined defense, control, restriction, obstruction, etc. Among them, the one with the strongest control was naturally the Thunder Spirit Fox's Thunder Domain. Under the heavenly thunder, all the soul beasts were struck to the point that they couldn't move at all. In the sky, the cowardly Kuan roared softly. Its magnificent black and gold body flowed with dazzling light. The ancient and noble golden patterns on its body lit up. As the strongest of the 7 soul beasts, its talent and bloodline were obvious. Although it didn't work as hard as the Iron Fox, its strength was still the strongest. His domain was also the most powerful one. Dark North Emperor's Devil Domain. Its original form was the ancient Dark North Emperor's Devil Kuan. It had the powerful ability to swallow all things. The Kuan Emperor. This Dark North Emperor's Devil Domain was a rare dual domain. The Dark North Emperor's domain was a domain that was given power and slowly cultivated. And after 100,000 years, the Dark North Emperor's Devil Kuan would have an innate domain, the Imperial Devil Domain. Unlike the Dark North Emperor's domain, this Imperial Devil Domain was a suppressive domain. Under this domain, the strength of soul beasts would naturally be reduced by 20%. End of this chapter. Chapter 986. It was difficult for them to attack the cowardly Kuan. This was the reason why the cowardly Kuan dared to fight the 700,000-year Snow Empress. Otherwise, how could they fight the Snow Empress when they had just attained 100,000 years of cultivation? These soul beasts had only shown their potential when they were 10,000 years old. Their strength was only revealed when they were 100,000 years old. Qing Huang wasn't around now. If Qing Huang was around, even the Snow Empress wouldn't be their match. When they reached the million-year level, they would be invincible in the world of soul beasts. Under the Dark North Emperor's Devil Domain, the soul power of countless soul beasts was quickly depleted. Their abilities were weakened. Their berserk state was weakened. The 2 domains covered more than 70% of the soul beasts at the front line of the soul beast army. The whale shark was still lying on the cowardly Kuan's body. Her energy attribute was very similar to the cowardly Kuan's. She was a 10,000 demon whale shark, a darkness type and water type soul beast. She was very similar to the Dark North Emperor's devil Kuan. Otherwise, they wouldn't be attracted to each other. Although she couldn't fight now, she could give her soul power to the cowardly Kuan, causing the domain to expand and become more powerful. Roar, roar, roar. At the same time, a loud dragon's roar reverberated through the sky. A blood-colored flood dragon that was 60 to 70 meters long flew in midair. Boundless blood energy surged from the soul beast below and was absorbed by the blood flood dragon, causing its body to shine brighter. The coral-like dragon horn on his forehead shone with a gem-like luster. Among the 7 soul beasts, the blood flood dragon wasn't the strongest. However, it was very useful now. Because it could absorb the blood energy from these soul beasts, it could greatly reduce the effects of the blood soul poison on these soul beasts. It could quickly remove their unconscious state. However, its abilities were limited, and the area it could cover was much smaller. However, it could help these soul beasts regain their consciousness. The moment the Ice Emperor appeared, it flew towards the Snow Empress. After the 7 soul beasts made their move, almost in an instant, the entire situation had been reversed. The 7 terrifying soul beasts that resembled war weapons shocked everyone present. The soul beast army's attacks were neutralized in an instant. Wave after wave of soul beasts fell to the ground, trembling uncontrollably. It was hard for him to move. It was as if the 7 soul beasts had descended from the heavens and displayed their strength. In the span of a few breaths, the situation had changed. Almost everyone was astonished by these 7 soul beasts at this moment. None of these 7 soul beasts were ridiculously strong. But at this moment, when they were combined together, they had the ability to turn the situation around, showing off his divine might. But what was even more puzzling was, these soul beasts are helping us. Douluo was in a daze as he watched from midair. However, upon closer inspection, he realized that the 7 soul beasts were only able to restrain the army of soul beasts. The fact that they didn't kill all the soul beasts meant that they didn't want all the soul beasts to die here. But why would he help them? This is too strong. All of the soul masters in the Soul Master Legion, including the 2 legion commanders, were staring at the 7 soul beasts in shock. 7 soul beasts had mysteriously appeared, but they were able to turn the situation around. This was even more exaggerated than the 7 titled Douluo. Every soul beast exuded an extremely strong aura. Look at the mysterious 9-tailed lightning fox in the clouds, engulfed by boundless lightning. Look at the gigantic ice beast that cracked the glaciers on the icy ground. Look at the powerful flying crocodile that stirred up a snowstorm in midair. Look at the gigantic Kuan that was like a steel fortress at the very top. The blood-colored flood dragon that danced in the air above the soul beasts would absorb the blood on the battlefield wherever it went. Hundreds of soul beasts quickly regained their consciousness and dispelled the haze in the hearts of countless soul masters. This majestic scene was imprinted in the hearts of countless soul masters. It was a scene that they couldn't forget for the rest of their lives. The wind and snow roared, the lightning flashed, and the glaciers on the ground seemed to have been awakened. It was as if the ancient bloodline of this world had been awakened, and the power that had been dormant for 10,000 years had been awakened. It exuded a brilliant aura in the war, and countless soul masters and soul beasts were shocked and fearful. Very far away, these 7 soul beasts, Tang San was astonished. That scarlet green light and that white flag. Don't tell me these 7 soul beasts are the useless and weak soul beast underlings that Brother Feng mentioned. Tang San was so astonished that he couldn't speak. He had already guessed it. Right now, the most important thing was the human soul masters. Brother Feng had sent these 7 soul beasts to change the situation on the battlefield. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to turn the tide of the soul beast army around with just one person's strength. These 7 soul beasts had indeed displayed their legendary strength. Just 7 of them were able to control the soul beast army that numbered in the tens of thousands. They were unreasonably strong. Tang Xin couldn't imagine what would happen if these 7 soul beasts worked together. Their soul master army might not be able to hold on. In the distance, a jade-green soul beast charged towards the Snow Empress. Although the situation of the soul beast army had been reversed, the situation hadn't changed fundamentally. This was because the situation with the Azure Empress and the Snow Empress hadn't been resolved. At the same time, the evil soul master hadn't been resolved. At this moment, Xuehai flew to Xuehi's side. Looks like the situation isn't too good. Based on my experience, the appearance of these 7 soul beasts means that the Snow Empress has been poisoned. This means that the soul master who resolved the blood soul poison will appear soon. Xuehai frowned. Let's go first. This person can resolve the blood soul poison. When he arrives, your 9th soul skill will be useless. The two of them weren't stupid. Blood River smiled and said, "That's natural. We can't fall in this place. Let's leave first. Anyway, there are still 2 soul beasts infected with the blood soul origin poison. There's no way he can resolve it unless he kills them. But killing them isn't something an ordinary soul master can do. With these 2 groups of soul beasts, it won't take long for our hometown to be riddled with holes. When the time comes, we'll reap the benefits." The 2 of them were extremely cautious. After confirming, they turned around and planned to leave. Tang San was shocked and furious when he saw this and was about to chase after them. But at this moment, an extremely cold sword of ice and snow slashed directly at him. A terrifying power of extreme ice bloomed, and Tang San hurriedly waved his sea god's trident to block this sword. The ice sword chi spanned thousands of meters and came crashing down. Just its aura alone froze hundreds and thousands of soul beasts below into ice sculptures. Even the current Tang San was instantly frozen the moment he received this sword. The sea god's trident was sent flying. Sister Xue. The Ice Emperor's figure suddenly appeared in front of them. She looked at the frozen Tang San with a solemn expression. "This is my sister's ultimate skill, unparalleled chill." In a chapter. Chapter 987. No one in the entire extreme north could withstand this move of his sister's. Naturally, this human couldn't withstand it either. Moreover, the Snow Empress was in her current state. However, the human-shaped soul beast was surrounded by ice and snow. Only a pair of blood-colored eyes were emitting a strange glow. However, it didn't hear the Ice Emperor's words. It even attacked the Ice Emperor directly. Empress, traceless snow wall. The Ice Emperor was stunned. A tinge of sadness flashed past her eyes. It seemed like her sister had been completely corroded by the blood soul origin poison. She had lost all consciousness. Those evil soul masters couldn't control them. Her sister had become a monster without consciousness. As the Ice Emperor finished speaking, her body suddenly erupted with boundless power of ice. A layer of dazzling, snow-colored walls covered her body. The cube-like, snow-colored walls wrapped around her tightly. Traceless snow wall blocked the Snow Empress sword. Naturally, she had her own ultimate techniques. The Snow Empress focused on offense, while she focused on defense and control. Of course, it didn't mean that her attacks weren't strong. This move was a combination of control and defense. To herself, it was defense. To the enemy, it was control. However, as the Snow Empress slashed down, the sharp sword mark easily sliced open the cube-like, snow-colored walls. The Ice Emperor was stunned. Her sister seemed to have become stronger. Even in the past, her sister couldn't have broken her move with a single slash. She watched as the sword slashed down. At this moment, a streak of scarlet-green light swept past. Clang! The ice sword in the Snow Empress' hand was instantly shattered. The Snow Empress was forced back more than 1,000 meters. The remaining power of this scarlet-green light disappeared. It turned into a sky full of scarlet-green sword shadows and attacked Blood River and Blood Sea. Blood River and Blood Sea's hearts skipped a beat. We can only see the sword, but it has such power. Tiske, Blood River said softly. With the Snow Empress' strength, this slash was easily broken. Even I can't do it. This thing seems to be a soul bone. It's strong, but it's a pity it slipped away. Bloodsea nodded. Now that the Snow Emperor's strength had been affected by the Blood Soul origin poison, he could no longer recognize his own family, and his strength had gone berserk. With the addition of the Azure Emperor, his strength had risen to a terrifying level. They couldn't control it, and could only lead the other party to attack them. However, it was directly repelled by this sword strike. I feel like he held back. It seems like this person doesn't want to kill this soul beast. Bloodsea said in a low voice, "Who is this guy? Could it be that our hometown has a god-level powerhouse?" "Who cares? Let's hurry up and leave," Blood River said indifferently. The two of them transformed into a streak of bloody light, moving at an extremely fast speed. But at this moment, a cold voice suddenly rang out from the vast sky. "Eighth soul skill, God-binding scale cage." In an instant, the speed of the scarlet-green sword shadow increased by several times. Immediately, it transformed into countless scales in the air. In an instant, they caught up to Blood River and Bloodsea. Immediately after, under the horrified gazes of the two of them, the countless scales rapidly formed a cage and instantly restrained the two of them. Under the seal of the last few scales, the two of them could only vaguely see a figure appear in the distant sky through a small hole. In an instant, their hearts sank. The god-binding scale cage, with a diameter of over 100 meters, looked like a huge meteorite floating in the air. It emitted an awe-inspiring divine aura. Extremely far away, a panic-stricken figure appeared in the distant void without anyone noticing. In his palm, a white lotus quietly bloomed. Endless light scattered on the ice and snowland. The blood-red color in the eyes of all the soul beasts that were enveloped by this white light disappeared at a speed visible to the naked eye. The endless white light covered an area of a few thousand meters. "Go!" Wang Feng shouted, and threw the white lotus in his hand into the void. The white lotus rotated, and the light became more and more dazzling. Like a huge sun, the light flowed in the Soul Beast army. The Soul Beast army that was suppressed by the 7 Krakens immediately calmed down after being enveloped by the pure light emitted by the rotating white lotus. Streaks of blood-red light flowed from the bodies of the countless soul beasts into the white lotus like streams returning to the sea. Looking from afar, it was extremely shocking. "It's the little lunatic." Douluo was stunned and immediately laughed. "This brat is finally back." At this moment, seeing this figure appear, the white lotus that was like the sun shone in this world and purified everything. This soul beast army began to regain consciousness. The war returned to peace. Countless gazes looked at that figure with eyes full of shock. They were shocked by the 7 soul beasts and also by the fact that he eliminated the blood soul poison in the soul beast army with his own strength. The current Wang Feng's strength was naturally many times stronger than before he came to the extreme north. Whether it was the second million-year soul ring or the second use of the chaotic divine light, it brought Wang Feng an unknown amount of improvement. After leaving the extreme ice layer, Wang Feng rushed to the Manifestation Valley to find the 7 Krakens. After quickly treating them, he brought them to the northern border. As the flying sword was faster, Wang Feng tied the cloud boundary flag to the flying sword and sent the 7 Krakens to the battlefield immediately. Wang Feng was also clear that the Soul Beast army was the most dangerous at the northern border. If he could not restrain this Soul Beast army immediately, the casualties would be even more exaggerated. After that, Wang Feng quickly rushed over and used the White Lotus to purify all the soul beasts that were poisoned by the blood soul poison in this Soul Beast army. His soul power had changed after the second use of the chaotic divine light, as well as his rank 92 soul power. The White Lotus ability could be said to be extremely strong. There were tens of thousands of soul beasts. To him, purifying the side effects of the blood soul poison was just a matter of time. The White Lotus stood in midair and absorbed the endless blood energy below. Wang Feng swept his gaze and saw all the severely injured titled Douluo below, as well as Ma Hongjun and the rest. The corpses of soul beasts and soul masters were piled up like a mountain. Wang Feng sighed softly. He had come in time. Otherwise, there would have been a sea of corpses below, and all of them would have been wiped out. At this moment, the Snow Empress seemed to have sensed Wang Feng. Under the influence of the blood soul origin poison, her instinctive desire to kill made her attack Wang Feng directly. The blood soul origin poison and the blood soul origin poison had a mother-child relationship. Under this relationship, the blood soul origin poison had evolved. As the main body of the blood soul origin poison, the Snow Empress would naturally be attracted by Wang Feng, who had purified the blood soul origin poison. At the same time, Qing also flew towards Wang Feng. Heaven and earth seemed to have fallen into a world of ice as the two soul beasts charged towards them. "Boss, be careful." Kraken spoke in human language and roared loudly. His roar shook the heavens. This sentence instantly petrified all of the soul masters present. "Boss, what's going on? Are these 7 soul beasts the underlings of the white-clothed Popetiff?" End of this chapter. Chapter 988. Damn, are these 7 soul beasts really Captain's underlings? Below, Dai Mubai and Shui Yuer, Ma Hongjun and Bai Qinxiang, and Oscar and Shun Lingqi were supporting them. They barely managed to return to the Soul Master Army. Just now, they were fighting 200,000-year soul beasts. However, they were ambushed by one of the evil soul masters and were severely injured. Not only were they poisoned by the blood soul poison, but they were also severely injured. The only good thing was Zhu Zhuqing, who managed to dodge most of the evil soul master's attacks. Naturally, they could see what happened afterwards very clearly. When they heard this, they were even more astonished. Were these 7 soul beasts Wang Feng's underlings? Since when did Captain infiltrate the inner circle of soul beasts? As they looked at the figure in the sky, they were so astonished that they couldn't speak. Today's scene would be unforgettable. After the soul beast army was purified, the other titled Douluo, who were severely injured, also recovered a little. Blood River's ambush could be said to have caused these titled Douluo to be severely injured. The most tragic ones were Zhan Aoyin and He Yutian. However, the soul beast army was stopped. Furthermore, Wang Feng used the White Lotus to purify the soul beasts, reducing the pressure on the entire Soul Master army. They didn't have to participate in the battle anymore. At this moment, they were all in a daze as they watched this scene unfold. "This kid is impressive." The sword Douluo coughed out a few mouthfuls of blood, and his entire body was covered in a layer of frost. "He's so strong even among soul beasts, and he has so many underlings. What level has his strength reached now? When we left the absolute ice forbidden land, he was rank 89. He might be a titled Douluo now, right?" The bone Douluo supported the sword Douluo and shook his head. To be able to purify this soul beast army in such a short period of time, you can only imagine how strong his soul power is. Speaking of which, at this moment, as the Snow Empress rushed closer, her eyes turned red. She was surrounded by ice and snow, but blood energy lingered around her. It was very strange. Wang Feng looked at the Snow Empress. This was the first time Wang Feng was looking at her at such a close distance. Her entire body was covered in a layer of frost-like armor, and her entire body was snow white. From her hair to her eyebrows, they were all the color of snow. Her face was absolutely beautiful. However, the bloody aura on her body, the ferocious expression on her face, and the bulging tendons due to her violent strength destroyed some of her unique beauty. At this moment, the Snow Empress let out a sharp whistle. Her hands seemed to contain a world of ice and snow as she attacked Wang Feng. Endless ice condensed in midair, sealing off the entire space. The palm came from a great distance away, yet seemed to be right in front of Wang Feng. Emperor's palm, great snow without cold. Under this palm, countless layers of ice were blasted out of the sky. The sky seemed to be frozen. This boundless might intimidated everyone. Qingqing screamed and wanted to attack Wang Feng, but she seemed to be struggling. It seemed that her instinctive consciousness had not completely disappeared. He wasn't as decisive as the Snow Empress. After all, the Snow Empress had been completely infected by the Blood Soul origin poison. However, because of the Golden Lotus, Qingqing still retained some consciousness even if she wasn't infected. Otherwise, she wouldn't have helped Tang San kill Blood River. Wang Feng looked at this palm and snorted coldly. The 9 soul rings on his body suddenly lit up, 7 red and 2 gold. In the blink of an eye, the entire world was illuminated. The 9 soul rings that exuded immense energy undulations, especially the last 2 soul rings, produced absolute pressure. Almost all the soul beasts in the soul beast army that had recovered were prostrating on the ground. Lin Lord Bingmu's million-year soul rings didn't have any soul skills. Just his soul rings alone had a strong suppressive effect on the soul beasts in the extreme north. One had to know that Qilin Lord Bingmu was an ancestor-level existence in the extreme north. Tens of thousands of soul beasts were prostrating on the ground because of this soul ring. This scene was too shocking. What shocked the soul cultivators even more was Wang Feng's 9 soul rings. What did this mean? The scarlet gold and icy gold soul rings were unimaginable. What class were they? At this moment, the Snow Empress attacked with her palm. Wang Feng's soul rings lit up, and he grabbed her with his hand. The ice that could freeze heaven and earth was instantly shattered. Countless cracks seemed to appear in the entire frozen world. Following this, the ice shattered with a boom. Wang Feng casually grabbed the Snow Empress with his palm. Light shone from his palm. 9th soul skill, 3000 ice realm. Lin Lord Bingmu's soul ring gave Wang Feng 3 soul skills. Although Long Xia's soul ring only had 2 soul skills, it gave Wang Feng the ability to absorb the evil intent of soul beasts and strengthen Long Xia's soul ring. In fact, there were too many abilities given by a million-year soul ring. If it was just a soul skill, it could have 2, 3, or even 4. The key was still the strength of the million-year soul beast itself. In terms of abilities, this million-year soul ring gave Wang Feng more than 4 abilities. With Lin Lord Bingmu's strength, Wang Feng was immune to all ice-type soul skills and freezing effects. The priority of this immunity was any form of energy that was below the power of absolute ice. At the same time, as long as the soul ring appeared, Wang Feng's normal attacks would carry the power of absolute ice. It could freeze everything. He could even freeze himself and empty his mind, allowing him to cultivate several times faster. This was also the cultivation state of Lin Lord Bingmu. He would freeze himself, and his mind would enter a state of cultivation. He wouldn't be affected by anything else. He could also defend against any attack below God rank. These abilities weren't considered soul skills. They were just supplementary abilities. They didn't consume soul power either. Soul skills, on the other hand, consumed soul power. 3 soul skills. The strongest one was to summon Lin Lord Bingmu's soul and fuse it with his soul ring. A million-year soul beast would reappear in the world. The second one was the 3000 ice realm. It used the power of absolute ice to freeze everything in the world. It contained all forms of energy. It was a control-type soul skill that was comparable to the god imprisoning scale cage. Furthermore, it had the highest priority. Even the Snow Empress wasn't immune to the freezing effect of Lin Lord Bingmu's absolute ice. He easily neutralized the Snow Empress palm with a single hand. Wang Feng didn't give her any chance to use it. He unleashed the 3000 ice realm. The Snow Empress turned into an ice sculpture in the blink of an eye. Even Qingqing was the same. Come! Wang Feng's palm sucked, and the white lotus flew into his palm. Shake! The Snow Empress and Qingqing's consciousness trembled as the chaotic 8 notes trembled. The white lotus flew above their heads and radiated a brilliant light. The 2 soul beasts' blood auras were immediately suppressed. Wang Feng didn't even release his martial soul true body. He captured the Snow Empress and Qingqing and froze them. The power of absolute ice might not be able to trap the Snow Empress for long, but it was enough for now. Ching and the Snow Empress situation couldn't be resolved quickly. This was especially so for the Snow Empress. It wasn't a problem that could be solved with a drop of blood. The Snow Empress was a 700,000-year soul beast. She was also the main body of the Blood Soul origin poison. She was much more troublesome than the Jade Spiritual Tree Emperor. At this moment, in the blink of an eye, the two powerful soul beasts had been subdued by Wang Feng. For a time, the hearts of countless people trembled. This was 2F** King Easy. Was he a god? Regardless of whether it was 2 days ago or today, these two soul beasts had given them a lot of trouble. They had changed the situation at the northern border. But now, not to mention these two soul beasts, the rest of the soul beast army had two evil soul masters. It was almost one-sided. However, the white-clothed Pope Tiff, the Tang sect's Grand Elder, had turned the tables so easily. End of this chapter. Chapter 989. Those two invincible soul beasts were captured in the blink of an eye. In fact, if Wang Feng was only at rank 89, he might have had to expend a lot of effort to trap the Snow Empress and Qing. But now, he was going to crush them. Wang Feng didn't think of any complicated tactics when he came here. Other than arranging for Wu Kuan and the others to stabilize the situation, Wang Feng was here to crush them. He had endured the last heavenly tribulation and absorbed the last soul ring. Wasn't that so that he could crush them? If those two evil soul masters were demigods, Wang Feng might have had to use more strength. Unfortunately, they weren't. Furthermore, if they were demigods, Icefield City would have been destroyed. Perhaps the continent would have been engulfed in the flames of war. Wu Kuan, send Qing and the Snow Empress to the extreme ice layer. I'll come back later to save them. Wang Feng instructed as he looked at Wu Kuan and the others. After this, Wang Feng condensed 2 drops of blood and dripped them into the Snow Empress and Qing's foreheads. The blood in Qing and the Snow Empress bodies started to boil. The frightening blood soul origin poison struggled intensely with Wang Feng's blood. How are they? The Ice Emperor hurriedly flew over. They're temporarily suppressed. Wang Feng shook his head and said, chase these soul beasts into the forest. Chase them in with Shun Bing and the others. Once I'm done with these two evil soul masters, I'll go to the extreme ice layer to save the Snow Empress. The Snow Empress couldn't be saved in a short period of time. After all, this was the blood soul origin poison. A drop of his essence blood could only temporarily suppress it. All right, the Ice Emperor nodded. His elder sister's condition could naturally be suppressed. This meant that this human could be saved. Unknowingly, the Ice Emperor no longer doubted Wang Feng's words. Under the leadership of the Ice Empress, the Eater Crocodile, and the others, the vast army of soul beasts returned to the Soul Beast Forest in the extreme north fearfully. This war was slowly disappearing from its calm state. Wang Feng immediately came in front of the God-binding scales. Streaks of ferocious light flashed across his eyes. This was the first time Wang Feng had encountered an evil soul master who was so strong and difficult to deal with. With these two evil soul masters, there would definitely be more evil soul masters on this continent in the future. The evil soul masters who had been killed and chased away by the Martial Soul Hall would return to this continent one day. Big Brother Feng, let me do it. At this moment, a deep voice sounded. Tang San, who had been sealed in ice by the Snow Empress, had been unsealed by the Ice Emperor when the Ice Emperor had arrived in front of Wang Feng. Wang Feng was stunned and looked at Tang San. All right. After a few seconds of silence, Wang Feng looked at the countless corpses on the ground. Just two evil soul masters had caused the deaths of tens of thousands of soul beasts and humans alike. At this moment, the blood soul poison in the army of soul beasts had been completely purified. There was no way these two evil soul masters could be revived. Attack directly. Your attack will be transmitted inside. Wang Feng stared at the God-binding scales. Tang San took in a deep breath and nodded. He waved his hand, and the sea god's trident appeared in his hand. Instantly, Tang Sen started to attack the god-binding scales crazily. At this moment, the other, titled Douluo, no longer had the strength to attack. Otherwise, they would end up like Tang San. They attacked the god-binding scales as if they were possessed. Over the past 10 days, although they had the upper hand, there were many soul masters and soldiers who had died. It was impossible for there to be no deaths in a war. However, the higher-ups were still intact. This was already the best outcome. Wave after wave of attacks pierced through the god-binding scales and into the cage. They could only faintly hear screams of agony. The control of the god-binding scales was directly related to Wang Feng's spiritual power and the Xinming blood dragon armor. Wang Feng's current spiritual power had almost become a real solid. He was just one step away from forming a true spiritual crystal. Not to mention these two evil soul masters. Even two demigods would not be able to escape if they were trapped. They would not be able to escape. Tang Sen used up the last of his soul power before he stopped, his entire body drenched in sweat. Wang Feng walked over and clapped his hands. Don't blame yourself. These evil soul masters should have come from another continent. I'm afraid they are not the most dangerous ones. Hearing this, Tang San was stunned. These two evil soul masters came from the other side of the glacier in the extreme north, which is also the other side of the ocean. Back then, they were killed and expelled. These two people are most likely here to scout the situation, Wang Feng said with a deeper meaning. Many years later, there might be a large batch of evil soul masters from another continent who will come here and take root in this world. This is what we have to worry about the most. Tang San was silent for a moment. Then, he nodded and said, I understand. Are they dead? No, they're not dead yet. Wang Feng shook his head and said, It's very difficult to kill them with pure attacks. We can only weaken them as much as possible. These evil soul masters are no longer normal humans. After he finished speaking, Wang Feng released the god-binding scales. In an instant, two balls of blood wriggled in the air and emitted an extremely bloody stench. Ha ha ha, what a powerful human. The ball of blood let out a vicious roar. You didn't purify the blood soul poison at all. You changed it. You purified all the negative effects of the blood soul poison and caused it to lose part of its original abilities. The blood soul poison can't be completely purified. I see. Ha ha. What a pity at this moment. The ball of blood suddenly exploded. A drop of faint black blood suddenly attacked Tang San. With my life, I offer it to my ancestors. Blood soul, origin poison. Go to hell. One day, this entire continent will belong to us. Tang San's pupil shrank. He didn't expect these two evil soul masters to take so many of his attacks while they were being controlled. They were actually accumulating power to self-destruct inside. The continuous explosions must be the soul bones that they detonated. He thought about how the two overlords of the extreme north, the Snow Empress, were also hit by such attacks. That was why they ended up like this. He didn't expect them to self-destruct at this moment. Wang Feng seemed to have guessed it. He used his palm to suck this drop of blood into his hand. In the next moment, a red lotus suddenly appeared. The merciless karmic fire burned this drop of faint black blood that exuded a strong smell of blood. A roar that came from one's spirit echoed from this drop of blood. It seemed to represent the last bit of anger and indignation. This drop of filthy and evil blood contained the spirits of two evil soul masters. It wasn't that simple. The blood soul origin poison was an evil soul skill that fused spirits and blood. The blood soul poison was only a simplified version. The two evil soul masters used the soul power of the three dead evil soul masters to create the blood soul poison. They then used the spirits of the three evil soul masters to fuse the energy of the four soul bones of one of the two evil soul masters, as well as their blood to unleash the blood soul origin poison. Now, they even used their own spirits as a medium to unleash the final blood soul origin poison. It was a pity that the spirits in their blood were burned into ashes by Wang Feng's karmic fire. The blood soul origin poison lost its effect even before it fused into the blood of living beings. This huge battle finally came to an end. P.S. There are 5 more updates tonight. Please count your votes in a chapter. Chapter 990. Wang Feng stared at the drop of blood in his hand. It was wrapped in soul power. After being tempered by the red lotus karmic fire, this drop of blood soul origin poison was missing an important factor: spiritual power. Spiritual power had been burned to nothing. This drop of blood only contained the pure energy of the 2 titled Douluo, the energy of a rank 99 titled Douluo. Those 2 fellows knew that they couldn't live, so they wanted to use this method to infect Tang San or Wang Feng. Just like the Snow Empress and Ice Emperor, it was a pity that Wang Feng couldn't compare to them. Even if this drop of blood soul origin poison infected Wang Feng, it would be assimilated by the huge amount of blood in his body. In order to infect him, only a God-grade method or above would be able to do so. To put it bluntly, in this world, only Bibi Dong, Qian Rinxue, and Tang San, who was about to become a god, could be Wang Feng's opponent. The rest were million-year soul beasts, exceptional Douluo, and demigods above rank 99. They were all trash. He couldn't destroy them with a flick of his finger, but he definitely didn't need much effort. These 2 evil soul masters were just appetizers to Wang Feng. How to save the Snow Empress and deal with Qian Rinxue and Bibi Dong were the most important things. However, he still had to keep this drop of blood. Although it wasn't the blood soul origin poison, it was only the energy of a rank 99 titled Douluo. Wang Feng still needed to observe it for a while. After that, he could use the cauldron of heaven and earth to refine it. It might become a soul crystal, which would be very useful. Brother Feng, according to what these 2 evil soul masters said, they are on another continent. Evil soul masters like them are on another continent. Perhaps they have other brethren? Tang Sen looked at him with a complicated gaze. If that's the case, won't our continent still be in such a situation in the future? Wang Feng pondered for a moment and nodded. This was inevitable. Wang Feng had always believed that evil soul masters couldn't be completely wiped out. They could only be suppressed. The reason was very simple. It was impossible for people to have no evil thoughts. Although martial souls were inherited, they could also change. No one knew if they would mutate into evil martial souls. Even if some martial souls weren't evil, they would still be evil soul masters if they used them. In other words, evil soul masters couldn't stop themselves from harboring evil thoughts. A society like Utopia was almost impossible to exist. A world where order and rules coexisted was normal. Only by establishing a complete and unified order can we resist these evil soul masters and unknown dangers. Wang Feng looked at Tang San. Tang San was silent for a while and then nodded heavily. This battle allowed him to gain many insights. Seeing this, Wang Fengxin said, Tang San should be able to let go of his grudge against the Martial Soul Alliance. 2 empires, countless sects, and the Martial Soul Alliance. True unification would be ushered in. Even if they did not establish an absolute monarchy, they would definitely establish a common political system. So many people had died, and the appearance of evil soul masters had taught them a lesson. However, Wang Fengxin wasn't just thinking about the unification of the human empires. I still need to make a trip back to the extreme north. Wang Feng looked down at the corpses of soul beasts and humans. Humans weren't the only ones affected by the flames of war. The soul beasts suffered even more severe losses. Although more than 30% of the soul beasts in the extreme north weren't infected by the blood soul poison and participated in this battle, Wang Feng still managed to absorb the blood soul poison. Fortunately, Wang Feng had absorbed the blood soul poison in time. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. However, many soul beasts had died in this battle. Perhaps the only ones that would benefit from this would be humans. Wang Feng and Tang San landed. At this moment, the Martial Soul Emperor Legion was still in a daze. It was as if they hadn't regained their senses yet. Since the appearance of the 7 soul beasts, they had been in a daze. Even the titled Dalu were in a daze. Wang Feng didn't come down to chat. He wanted to heal these titled Dalu. Before their injuries worsened, they would be grateful if they could be treated. Some of them were still infected by the blood-soul origin poison and needed to recover quickly. Otherwise, who knew what would happen? Wang Feng didn't want to leave behind any seeds of trouble. Hence, he even kept that drop of blood. Even if evil soul masters came again in the future, that would be in the future. Wang Feng didn't want to leave behind any seeds of trouble now. Captain, aren't you too godly? After the two of them landed, the entire Martial Soul Emperor Legion turned to look at Wang Feng. An excited expression appeared on everyone's face. Ma Hongjun and the others walked over first. When did you have so many soul beasts as your underlings? We recognize 3 of them. They are the 3 from the Sea God's Island. But the others are 100,000-year soul beasts. How can you take them as your underlings? Ma Hongjun and the others were covered in blood, but they were all excited. Sharing in the glory was exactly what they were feeling right now. When I was cultivating in the extreme north, I casually took them in. They were all weak then. Wang Feng waved his hand. They're not worth mentioning. They're still somewhat useful now. Everyone, Big Brother Feng, I'm sure it's you. You've changed a little. Although you've changed, your skin is still so thick. Xiao Wu and the other girls burst out laughing. Tang Xin walked over to Xiao Wu and looked at her. Wang Fengxin said, "Then you haven't seen Long Xie and Lin Lord Ice Empress. If he summoned these 2 fellows, it would be a one-sided massacre. All right, I still have something to do. Gather all the soul masters who are seriously injured. I'll help you recover. If you fight with these soul beasts, you'll more or less be infected with the blood soul poison." Wang Feng looked around. "Do you have enough soul power?" Zhu Zhuqing walked over and asked softly. She had the least injuries because her domain was special. It could greatly increase her dodging ability. Even on the battlefield, there were very few soul beasts that could hurt her. Zhu Zhuqing was only slightly injured because of the evil soul master's sneak attack. However, the meteoric tear belonged to Zhu Zhuqing. Even the blood soul origin poison couldn't infect her. Furthermore, she wasn't far from becoming a titled Douluo. Although the battlefield was hell, it was also a shortcut to increasing one's strength. In such a high-intensity battle, soul rings didn't even need to be considered. Not to mention Zhu Zhuqing. This legion of Emperor-rank soul masters had improved tremendously after this battle. Don't worry. Even if all of you use up your soul power, mine won't be empty. Wang Feng walked over and wiped the blood off Zhu Zhuqing's face. Zhu Zhuqing nodded and held Wang Feng's hand. Her face was slightly red, and she seemed to be enjoying it. Soon, the severely injured titled Dalu came in front of Wang Feng. Apart from them, there were also soul masters who were injured. Some were even on the verge of death. In a chapter. Chapter 991. In total, there are thousands of people. Many of them had a faint blood aura, and their eyes were slightly red. They were obviously affected by the blood soul poison, especially Haneda Douluo and Ao Tian Douluo. Seeing this, Wang Feng's eyes flashed. Sure enough, there were remnants of the blood soul poison. Once it was not dealt with, there would be endless trouble. Lord Popetiff, we can't find a solution to the blood soul poison in them for the time being. At this moment, Yao Sun walked over and hurriedly said, "However, if you give us time, we can definitely find a solution." The Medicine Spirit sect was one of the 7 great sects, and the only sect that focused on studying medicine. In today's Douluo world, the study of medicine was not very important or deep, but Wang Feng valued it. Wang Feng pondered for a moment and said, "I'll keep 1 or 2 types of blood soul poison for you to study. But you have to be very careful. The Alliance needs to send people to watch over them. If there's a problem, report it immediately." The blood soul poison was the specialty of evil soul masters, and it had a lot to do with their martial soul. If they could find a specific solution, even if he was not on the continent in the future, humans would not be afraid if evil soul masters used the blood soul poison to cause trouble again. Yao Sun nodded. "Little lunatic, you gave us a big surprise today." Dugabo laughed as he walked over. Hearing this, Wang Feng looked at the old poison in surprise and said with a smile, Is that so? I thought you were used to the shock I gave you. Dugabo, he laughed a few times. Old Dugu, Yao Sun has to study the blood soul poison. You have to participate in the inspection. You're a titled Douluo, and you have studied poison. Wang Feng looked at Yao Sun. Of course, I'm also quite curious about this thing. Dugabo nodded repeatedly. I originally wanted to study it immediately after this war ended. That's best. Wang Feng then looked at the Sword Duo and Bone Duo, as well as Zhang Outyin, who had lost an arm, and Haneda Duo, who was most seriously affected by the blood soul poison. There were also the two titled Duo, Gui Ju, who were ambushed, as well as the other titled Dalu who came from the Alliance. Everyone, sit down. I'll help you recover. A white lotus appeared in Wang Feng's hand. A scarlet gold soul ring flickered around by Lian's body, and the boundless energy was even more vivid at such a close distance. That was truly unparalleled power. Boundless light spread out in all directions with a white lotus in Wang Feng's palm as the center. As Wang Feng poured his soul power into it, the light became even brighter, reaching over 1,000 meters. Everyone in the area could feel a soul-shaking energy filling their bodies. It was as if his face, body, and mind had been purified. The countless desires brought about by the blood-soul poison seemed to have condensed into a thread of blood, which was driven away and purified by the power of the white lotus. In just a few moments, all of the soul masters who had been poisoned by the blood-soul poison had recovered. Then, Wang Feng used his golden lotus. Boundless golden light covered the entire area as if it was bathed in a golden ocean. With Wang Feng's current soul power, it was no exaggeration to say that he was comparable to a god-rank soul master. Even a severed limb of a titled Douluo could quickly regrow it. Limbs were naturally extremely important to a titled Douluo. If they lost their limbs, their abilities would decrease and their upper limit would be fixed. Their soul power rank would also be locked. Normally, it was extremely difficult to restore a titled Douluo's limbs. Previously, when Tang San was at rank 94, he had used his blue-silver domain's abilities to restore Tang Hao's limbs. However, he had expended a lot of effort and almost vomited blood. One could imagine how difficult it was to restore a titled Douluo's limbs. However, it was a different matter now. Under the effects of Wang Feng's golden lotus, all of the soul masters who were severely injured were recovering at a visible speed. This was especially so for the titled Dalu, who was the closest. Zhang Outyin's severed arm was quickly regrown. It looked extremely mystical. The other titled Dalu's injuries were also quickly recovering. In less than half an hour, they had all recovered. Seeing this, Wang Feng heaved a sigh of relief. After that, Wang Feng told Ning Fengji about Ning Rongrong's situation. With Ning Rongrong's talent, it would be very difficult for her to inherit the water god's godly position without a lot of hard work. Fortunately, she had two companions who could cultivate with her. But even so, Wang Feng estimated that it would take at least a few years. This time, Wang Feng naturally did not intend to help Rongrong. He wanted her to inherit the godly position through her own efforts. Therefore, Wang Feng warned Ning Fengji not to disturb Ning Rongrong if there was nothing important. When Ning Fengji heard this, he naturally did not refute. The godly position was too far away. If Rongrong could really inherit the godly position, her father, and the Seven Treasure Glazed Tile sect would change. Furthermore, the godly position was something that could only be chanced upon. Wang Feng did not know if there were any other places of inheritance on this continent. If he looked carefully, he would definitely be able to find them. This was because there were many dangerous or mysterious areas on this continent. In addition, these gods must have left behind many deeds in this world. For example, the water god, the angel god, the sea god, and so on. If he followed these ancient deeds, he would be able to find clues. But for the current Wang Feng, he did not have much time. After bidding farewell to Tang San and the rest, Wang Feng quickly rushed to the extreme ice layer. When he came to the extreme ice layer again, the Jade Spiritual Tree Emperor had completely recovered. It was exuding vitality. The air was rippling with fresh energy, restoring the extreme ice layer to its original state. At the top, he could vaguely feel a ball of faint bloodlight. Come with me. The Ice Emperor seemed to have been waiting for a long time under the Jade Spiritual Tree Emperor. When he saw Wang Feng, he immediately led Wang Feng up the Jade Spiritual Tree Emperor. This tree was indeed magical. It also had the effect of purifying the aura of the blood soul poison. Otherwise, Wang Feng would not have asked the Ice Emperor and the rest to bring the Snow Empress back here. After walking into the interior of the Jade Spiritual Tree, Wang Feng realized that the interior of the Jade Spiritual Tree Emperor was really like the elves' habitat in Western fantasy stories. It was too big and thick. Furthermore, every branch was transparent. He could even see the energy flowing within. It was filled with a crystalline beauty. The droplet-like branches and leaves looked plump and exquisite. It was a huge visual impact. Isn't this place beautiful? The Ice Emperor climbed up the tree trunk and said, "This is where my sister and I have been living since we met. Our world is not as complicated as your human world. We can live for countless years in this place. We won't like the new and dislike the old." Wang Feng, are you referring to something? End of chapter. Chapter 992. I heard that you humans like the new and hate the old. It's hard for you to stay in one place for a long time. You'll often abandon someone when you meet someone better. The Ice Emperor's figure quickly moved upwards. Cough, cough. Wang Feng could only say, that's not absolute. There might be a portion of humans like that, but it's still a minority. Haha, are you one of those minorities? The Ice Emperor suddenly asked. In the Twin Gods' Sacred Hall, there were 2 heirs and a human girl who stayed behind. It seems like they treat you differently, especially when the water gods air-kissed you. The fox girl's eyes were filled with envy and loneliness. Wang Feng was speechless. You're just a soul beast. How can you be so observant? At this moment, the Ice Emperor suddenly paused. He was only 1 step away from the top of the Jade Spiritual Tree Emperor. The top is my sister's private land. Even soul beasts don't have the chance to enter, let alone humans. The Ice Emperor said softly, my sister has the body of a human, but she's a spirit formed from the purest ice-type elemental energy of heaven and earth. If you can really save my sister, I hope you won't let her down. Wang Feng wanted to say something, but he coughed when he heard this. Well, I can save her. Besides the Ice Emperor's request, there's another reason. I don't want to cause any more trouble in the extreme north. This shouldn't have anything to do with whether I let your sister down, right? Hearing this, the Ice Empress glared at Wang Feng with her topaz eyes. The Ice Emperor snorted, but didn't say anything. Wang Feng was also confused. Let her down? Nothing King happened to me. How can I let you down? I like my sister. If I didn't think you could save her, I wouldn't have come here. If you could save my sister, I wouldn't have let her step into this place. The Ice Emperor sighed. Let's go up. I'll stand guard here. Wang Feng shook his head. Why do these soul beasts like to think about all these messy things? The Snow Empress must be saved. Besides the Ice Emperor's request, Wang Feng also knew that if he could save the Snow Empress, his soul wouldn't be burdened. That way, his soul wouldn't have any burden. This was Lin Lord Bing Mu's only request. It was very important. After all, Wang Feng had promised him. After saving the Snow Empress, Wang Feng had a premonition that his spiritual power should have condensed into a true solid crystal core. This was extremely terrifying. It was also a true soul crystal core. His soul would become even stronger. Thinking of this, Wang Feng walked to the top of the Jade Spirit Tree King. Logically speaking, the first time he came to the top floor, he was indeed shocked by the cool visual effects that were similar to those in his previous life. This place was more like a small nest. Its entire body was the color of ice crystals, and it was surrounded by loops formed by Jade Spirit tree branches. They formed a dazzling pattern, and the Snow Empress must have made these patterns in tree branches herself. Looking up, it was the Jade Spirit Tree Emperor. Countless droplet-like pendants floated in the air, emitting a crystal-like luster. What was even more interesting was that these water droplets were small soul beasts, and most of them were from the extreme north. It was only the size of a grain of rice. From afar, it looked like a droplet of water, but upon closer inspection, it turned out to be a carved soul beast. It was delicate and adorable, and was clearly the Snow Empress handiwork. What a beautiful little world, Wang Feng praised. It was like a space that only existed in fairy tales. Other than that, there was an ice bed in front of him that emitted an extremely cold aura. Wang Feng looked over and was stunned. He roughly understood the meaning behind the Snow Empress words. Right now, the frost-like armor on the Snow Empress body had disappeared, and her body was circulating with blood-red light. However, there was a pale green light that enveloped the center of the Snow Empress brows and spread to her brain. Wang Fengxin's heart skipped a beat. Right now, the Snow Empress was completely naked. As he walked closer, Wang Fengxin's heart skipped a beat, but it slowly calmed down under Wang Feng's control. It wasn't like Wang Feng hadn't seen a woman's body before. She was more beautiful. It seemed like there wasn't anything more beautiful. Wang Feng had seen someone as beautiful as her before. Fuck. No wonder the Ice Empress said those words. Does she think that I have to take responsibility for seeing the Snow Empress body? Or does she think that I will do something weird to the Snow Empress? Wang Feng was speechless. Am I that kind of pervert? Wang Feng heaved a sigh. As he spoke, Wang Feng walked over and focused his mind. All right, it's a little big. Why is a heavenly fairy so big? It's fine if she has a good figure, but why is she so big? Wang Feng shook his head and looked at Qing Qing on the other side. At this moment, the soft feathers on Qing Qing's body also had some red color on them. However, her eyes still seemed to have some consciousness. Let's heal Qing Qing first. Qing Qing isn't the main body of the blood soul origin poison. Half of her blood hasn't been infected yet. She must have been affected by the golden lotus. Her body has mutated, and she can resist part of the blood soul origin poison. Qing Qing was infected with the blood soul origin poison because she was suppressing the poison in the Snow Empress body. You rascal! Wang Feng glanced at Qing Qing. He had his own selfish motives for saving Qing Qing first. After all, Qing Qing was closer to him, and he didn't have any feelings for the Snow Empress. He had to save her. I'll take this opportunity to help Qing Qing transform. Wang Feng took a deep breath. The blood soul origin poison in their bodies was different from others. It was very troublesome. Just one drop of blood could only suppress it temporarily. At the same time, her blood had changed because there was too much blood soul origin poison in her body. I'll use the red lotus karmic fire to temper her body. Wang Feng pondered. He would use 3 drops of essence blood as a medium to expel the blood in Qing Qing's body. He would need heavenly treasures with immense energy to replenish and reconstruct Qing Qing's body. Qing Qing wasn't a fairy of heaven and earth. She couldn't do this. On the way here, Wang Feng had already thought of a few methods. This method was very beneficial, but there was also a certain amount of risk. Wang Feng knew the pain of tempering one's body better than anyone else. He didn't know if Qing Qing could endure it. After this, Wang Feng summoned his cauldron of heaven and earth. He tossed the drop of blood soul origin poison that he had obtained from the 2 evil soul masters into the cauldron to refine it. This drop of blood contained all the energy of a rank 99 titled Douluo. There was also the energy of another titled Douluo. Although it was a good idea for them to unleash their last soul skills, it was useless. After the drop of blood entered the cauldron of heaven and earth, Wang Feng quickly refined it. With Wang Feng's current abilities, this drop of blood contained immense energy. However, it didn't take long for him to refine it into a crystal core. It looked like a Buddhist relic. It had to be said, the cauldron of heaven and earth was very strong. It could refine all things and return them to their origin. As Wang Feng's soul power increased, its abilities became stronger and stronger. End of chapter. Chapter 993. Suddenly, Wang Fengxin thought of something. Wang Feng had always used the cauldron of heaven and earth to refine various materials into the purest form of energy, which was the soul crystal. But in fact, in the legends, the cauldron of heaven and earth could also raise the grade of items. That was the soul bone fusion refinement that Wang Feng used. But could he directly refine a soul bone alone and raise the grade of the soul bone? After thinking about it, it might be possible, but this should require a huge amount of soul power to support it, right? He still had a pair of ice-wing spirit bone that had not been absorbed yet. If he simply used the cauldron of heaven and earth to refine this million-year external soul bone, would he be able to directly refine this ice-wing spirit bone into a divine weapon? Wang Fengxin's heart skipped a beat. There was no need to say more about the power of a divine weapon. No matter how strong a soul bone was, it could not be compared to a real divine weapon. Qianren Xue, Bibi Dan, or Tang San, after becoming gods, all had their own divine equipment. Even if his 6 soul bones were a million-year soul bone, they could not be compared to a real divine weapon. Their divine equipment had already become divine weapons. But his divine equipment was at most a complete set of equipment. Even if it grew with him, it could not be compared to a real divine weapon, unless it was strengthened and integrated with his will, become a real divine weapon. Thinking of this, Wang Feng thought for a while. This should be quite troublesome. If all the soul bones in his body became divine weapons and real divine equipment, his strength should increase by a level. Let's settle it for Qing first. Wang Feng condensed 3 drops of blood essence in his hand, and then used the secret character to quickly recover. Go! Wang Feng floated the crystal core in his hand above Qing's head, and used his soul power to gently envelop her huge body. Then, he used the red lotus. Chuida. He gently placed it on the lotus platform of the red lotus. The 3 drops of blood essence entered Qing's forehead. In an instant, green light shone brightly, and the blood soul origin poison in Qing's body suddenly boiled. The soul power of the evil soul master contained in the blood soul origin poison was burned to ashes by the karmic fire of the red lotus. The 3 drops of blood were like 3 torrents that swallowed and assimilated everything. However, under the burning of the karmic fire of the red lotus, Qing let out a long cry. That painful voice made Wang Fengxin's heart tremble. His feathers and body seemed to be melting. But then, the soul crystal above her head emitted a majestic energy that surged into Qing's body, repairing it. Hold on. Wang Feng's spiritual consciousness entered Qing's mind. However, he could only feel waves of painful thoughts in response. This was Wang Feng's first time using the karmic fire of the red lotus to temper a soul beast body. The pain was unimaginable. However, Wang Feng was gratified to see that Qing had no intention of giving up even though she was in pain. The painful cries also gradually disappeared below. When the Ice Emperor heard these cries, he was shocked. This human, what is he doing? Could it be that he couldn't hold back anymore? Not only does he want to violate my sister, he doesn't even want to let the Azure the Arch off. That's a soul beast. It doesn't even have a human form. The painful cries caused many unbearable scenes to appear in the Ice Emperor's mind. In an instant, a layer of crimson seemed to have appeared on her jade-like body that was like a gem. How can this be? The Ice Emperor wanted to go up and take a look, but he restrained himself. He was afraid that the scene he saw would dirty his eyes. From a moment, he let the other party go up. The Ice Emperor roughly knew what was going to happen. One had to know that his sister had a body that was similar to a human's. How could a young and vigorous human man not have any impulses after going up? Even if it was this human, he would definitely do the same. Even if this human's aura was incomparably pure. But under such primitive desires, the Ice Emperor believed that no human could avoid the greed in their hearts. His sister was a fairy of heaven and earth. Her appearance, temperament, and body were extremely attractive to soul beasts, not to mention humans. After so many years, many soul beasts had come to confess their love to her. The Titan snow demon ape was one of them. It was a pity that his sister didn't like him. To be precise, these soul beasts weren't worthy of his sister. But the Ice Emperor admitted that this human might not even be worthy of his sister in all aspects. Whether it was his strength, appearance, charm, etc. Alright. The Ice Emperor felt that he was a little biased towards this human. Otherwise, he wouldn't have let him go up. But this was the truth. Therefore, the Ice Emperor only hoped that this human wouldn't let his sister down in the future. But at this moment, he heard the green bird's painful cries. The Ice Emperor felt a chill in his heart. He couldn't be one of those perverts that the humans are talking about, right? After a long time, the Azure Thearcha's cries of pain finally disappeared. Then there was a joyful cry. Master, I'm done. You can rest for a while. I'll absorb it myself. The Ice Emperor could vaguely hear the Azure Thearcha's sober voice. The Ice Emperor's crimson color became even more intense. How can he do this by himself? How can the Azure Thearch do such licentious things? The Ice Emperor lay on the tree and felt that his entire body was soft. Even the scorpion tail on his back had softened. How can a human and a bird be together? The Ice Emperor couldn't imagine. At the top of the spiritual jade tree emperor, Wang Feng heaved a sigh of relief. He looked at Qing, who was glowing with divine light, and smiled. Under the effects of the red lotus fire, the 3 drops of blood, and the soul crystal, Qing could be said to have been reborn. Every feather on her body was glowing with a faint green divine light. Her entire body was emitting a pure and flawless aura. The feathers on her head seemed to be flowing as they floated around her. Her eyes were shining with divine light. Boundless life energy was being emitted from Qing's body. The golden lotus mark on her forehead had deepened, but she was still absorbing the energy from the soul crystal. Wang Feng also retracted his red lotus. Actually, it was much easier for Qing to temper her body with the red lotus fire than with the BB Dawn. The reason was simple. Qing's experience was very pure. It wasn't as complicated and dark as the BB Dawn. The only thing she had experienced was when she was attacked by the ice dragon whale. Xing and Yaya were also a hurdle in her heart. Fortunately, Wang Feng told her that he had revived Xing and Yaya's souls. That was why Xing was able to endure and overcome this hurdle. Master, I knew you would come to save us. Qing chirped. It's so comfortable to absorb this thing. I miss it so much. Master, after you left us, I haven't been able to absorb this anymore. Qing looked at the soul crystal above her head. When Wang Feng left, he left the 5 of them with soul crystals. The Ice Emperor's beast life was completely turned upside down. End of chapter. Chapter 994. Don't tell me that I didn't do it once. The Ice Emperor couldn't believe it. Also, the Azure Thearch has recovered. Don't tell me they can recover from the blood soul origin poison by doing that. The more he thought about it, the more incredulous the Ice Emperor felt. However, stop talking nonsense. Hurry up and finish absorbing. Wang Feng looked to the other side. The Snow Empress injuries are more troublesome. I have to use the same method to save her. Furthermore, she needs more essence blood. Qing nodded obediently. Although she was controlled by the blood soul origin poison previously, she still had her memories. Hence, Qing knew what had happened. Master, the Snow Empress is pretty, right? At this moment, Qing suddenly said softly, I wonder what her expression will be when she wakes up and sees that she has been seen naked by a human man. If you want Master, you have to go all the way. Just bang. Wang Feng flicked a chestnut on Qing's head. What kind of nonsense are you trying to write in that head of yours? Am I the kind of person who would take advantage of a beast? Wang Feng felt that he wasn't a saint, but some things had to be consensual. If it were Ning Rongrong and Zhu Qing, Wang Feng wouldn't sit still. However, the Snow Empress should forget about it. Wang Feng would probably be emptied when she replied later. It would be a problem if he didn't have any strength left. At this moment, Qing covered her head with her wings and said pitifully, Master, you have to go all the way and accept the Snow Empress as your underling. Master, you're the one who thought wrongly. Wang Feng, he looked at Qingqing unhappily. No wonder you've been by my side for so long. You were already so cunning when you tried to hurt me back then. That's enough. Wang Feng walked to the Snow Emperor's side, and more than 10 drops of blood appeared in his hand. At the same time, a crystal core that exuded the power of absolute ice appeared in midair. This crystal core was the origin energy of the Qilin Lord of Ice Empress. It could be used here to replenish the energy of the Snow Empress Red Lotus Karmic Fire. This thing was much more powerful than soul crystals. It could only be found by chance. It was also the most suitable thing for the Snow Empress. After thinking for a while, Wang Feng closed his eyes. If one looked at it too much, it would easily cause one's state of mind to become unstable. He had no choice. Whether it was tempering his body with the Red Lotus Karmic Fire or controlling his blood essence later, both required a lot of energy. The Snow Empress would be harmed if he was even slightly distracted. Closing his eyes, Wang Fengxin's voice was empty. He dispelled all distracting thoughts and allowed his soul to enter a calm and composed state. A stream of essence blood flowed into the Snow Emperor's forehead. At the same time, he used his soul power to lift the Snow Empress into the air. He used his soul power to make the Snow Empress bigger and bigger before placing her on the Snow Empress. The moment he put it on, a heavenly voice sounded from the Snow Empress' mouth. Don't shout. Wang Fengxin's heart skipped a beat as he quickly activated the Red Lotus Hellfire. In the next moment, Wang Feng felt that his essence blood was met with great resistance as it entered the Snow Emperor's forehead. The Snow Emperor's blood had completely turned into the Blood Soul origin poison. Wang Feng's blood had been washed twice by the chaotic divine light, so it was impossible for his blood to not fuse. The quality of his blood was even higher than the Snow Emperor's blood. However, Wang Feng was met with great resistance at this moment. The Blood Soul origin poison's body was indeed extraordinary. However, at this moment, as the Red Lotus Hellfire burned, the Blood Soul origin poison in the Snow Emperor's body seemed to be letting out shrill screams. It was like a low cry from her soul power. The Blood Soul origin poison contained an extremely evil soul power, and it was quickly burned to ashes by the Red Lotus Hellfire. At the same time, the Snow Empress also started to groan in pain. Her groan sounded like she was weeping and complaining, but it was also like a heavenly voice. Even gods and Buddhas would be moved. Wang Feng was speechless. Wang Feng focused his breathing and activated the Blood Soul origin poison seriously. His essence blood flowed continuously. As the soul power in the Blood Soul origin poison gradually decreased, Wang Feng's essence blood flowed continuously, swallowing and assimilating the remaining Blood Soul origin poison. At the same time, the Snow Empress body glowed with red light, as if she was being refined and transformed under the burning of the Red Lotus Hellfire. The absolute ice power crystal above her head also started to emit a dazzling light. Wang Feng thought for a moment, then used his soul power to control this crystal and fed it directly into the Snow Empress' mouth. Time slowly passed. Cold sweat started to appear on Wang Feng's forehead, and his face was also a little pale. Losing so much essence blood in a day was also because of Wang Feng. If it was someone else, they would have died instantly. The Snow Empress continued to groan in pain. The blood-red light around her body started to weaken, and a true icy green light appeared. Waves of absolute ice power slowly blossomed from her body. It caused Wang Feng's body to be covered with a layer of frost. Qingqing looked at Wang Feng worriedly. The Ice Emperor's body was completely red. Hearing this voice, "Sister, sister," the Ice Emperor's body trembled, and her heart ached, but she couldn't stop it. That was because she could feel her sister's aura. She knew how that human had saved her sister. The Ice Emperor couldn't stop it, because that was the only way for her sister to live. The Ice Emperor was in a daze. Hearing her sister's painful groan, the Ice Emperor felt the same way. Her body started to tremble. After an unknown period of time, The painful moans gradually turned into pleasant moans that sounded like the sounds of nature. The Ice Emperor could guarantee that this was the first time she heard her cold, noble, and beautiful sister. She was groaning softly. It was as if she was experiencing some kind of pleasure. This human is really capable. Isn't he tired? The Ice Emperor was silent. She counted the time and couldn't help but curse in her heart. At the top, Wang Feng was extremely tired. The Snow Empress had drained at least half of his essence blood. Only then did she completely assimilate the blood-soul origin poison in her body. Fortunately, the Snow Empress managed to survive the karmic fire of the Red Lotus. In comparison, the Snow Empress had spent much more time than Qingqing. How long had Qingqing lived? How long had the Snow Empress lived? Those experiences were all different. It was also because she had lived for so many years that the Snow Empress' willpower was extremely strong. After being inflicted with the blood-soul origin poison, she was still able to endure for so long. Right now, the Snow Empress exuded an icy green radiance. Her body was covered with a layer of ice. It was as if she was wearing an icy-colored gauze dress. She looked extremely beautiful. This was formed by the absolute ice power in her body. It contained extremely strong defensive abilities. It was also formed according to the Snow Empress imagination. Qilin Lord Bing Mu's origin crystal core had completely fused with the Snow Empress during the karmic fire of the Red Lotus. However, it wasn't completely absorbed. There was still a large portion left. When the karmic fire of the Red Lotus was retracted, Wang Feng staggered. He barely managed to hold onto the ice bed. He almost fell over. Wang Feng looked at the Snow Empress. At this moment, the Snow Empress' eyelashes trembled. She slowly opened her eyes. P.S. In a Chapter 10, please count the votes. End of chapter. Chapter 995. Her icy and jade-like eyes and her pitch-black eyes looked at each other at this moment. There was a subtle emotion in their eyes. Although it was their first time meeting each other, the feeling of being connected by blood made both of them feel subtle. The Snow Empress had absorbed more blood than Qingqing after being tempered by the Red Lotus karmic fire. Half of Wang Feng's essence blood. What did that mean? Even Wang Feng didn't expect it to be so exaggerated. He thought that a dozen drops would be enough. But after he started to recover, he realized that it was far from enough. She was the only life in the world that had as much essence blood as Wang Feng. That was why the feeling was very subtle. Although the Snow Empress had an additional layer of ice armor on her body, it was actually semi-transparent. Wang Feng felt a little awkward as he looked at her. On the other hand, the Snow Empress was relatively calm apart from the complicated emotions in her eyes. It was just that the feeling couldn't be removed. Thank you. The Snow Empress' voice rang out coldly. Although she was clearly thanking him, her tone was a little cold. This was because she hadn't finished absorbing the essence core of Qilin Lord Icywood. She couldn't control her power. She had been reborn, and even her blood had been cleansed. Her face was snow white, but she still looked noble and cold. She didn't give off the feeling of weakness that she had just recovered. Wang Feng nodded slightly. No matter what, the Snow Empress was truly fine. Wang Feng had fulfilled Qilin Lord Icywood's request. He had also given the origin crystal to the Snow Empress. Although this was the weakest he had ever been, it was much better than the last time when he lost his heart. He just needed a short rest to recover. With Wang Feng's current strength, it wouldn't be a problem. Sister Snow. Qingqing walked in front of the Snow Empress and said happily, "We are real sisters now." Wang Feng was speechless. Qingqing was referring to them as sisters because both of them had Wang Feng's blood in their bodies. It would make sense if they were sisters. But why are you saying this now? Wang Feng stood up weakly and limped away. Master, you are so weak now. Why don't you rest here? Qingqing was a little heartbroken when she saw Wang Feng like this. Wang Feng coughed a few times. The atmosphere was a little awkward, especially in front of the Snow Empress. After all, he had seen her naked. It was better to go down and recover. You guys have a chat. I'll go down and recover. Wang Feng also felt that his spiritual power was about to break through and reach a tipping point. After saying that, Wang Feng continued walking. At this moment, the Snow Empress' cold voice was heard. Stay here. The energy here is abundant. It will be much better to recover here. Yes, yes. Qing Qing nodded. Wang Feng paused and turned around to look at the Snow Empress. The Snow Empress had already stood up, and her clothes seemed to have changed again. The ice armor disappeared, and a thin layer of snow and ice appeared on her body, covering her entire body. Although her expression was calm, she felt a little uncomfortable when Wang Feng looked at her. She subconsciously looked at Qing Qing. At this moment, the Ice Emperor seemed to have sensed that the Snow Empress had completely awakened. He hurriedly rushed up from above. Sister, you've recovered. The Ice Emperor shouted with tears in his eyes and charged towards the Snow Empress. He wasn't very big, but he brought a gust of wind with him as he ran in front of the Snow Empress. Wang Feng was blown around by this gust of wind. Slow down. Don't be so rash. The Snow Empress shook her head gently and chided him. The Ice Emperor hurriedly stopped and looked at Wang Feng. He had a complicated look in his eyes. Why are you so weak? Do you humans like to do such things so much? Don't you know how to control yourself? How long has it been? Wang Feng was speechless. Do you think I want to? Wait, what do you mean? What do I control? Ice Empress, what kind of thoughts do you have? When the Snow Empress heard this, her flawless face blushed a little. She gently patted the Ice Emperor's head and said, What nonsense are you talking about? Qing Qing giggled a few times and briefly explained what had just happened. After hearing this, the Ice Emperor's body turned even redder. The ice crystal body and the scorpion tail on its back were dyed with a bright red. She hid behind the Snow Empress and didn't dare to look at Wang Feng. Oh my God, was everything just a figment of my imagination? This is too. The Ice Emperor was so embarrassed that he wanted to dig an ice hole and hide in it. If they were on the ice layer, she might have really done that. Wang Feng ignored the Ice Emperor. This scorpion was a little arrogant, but her mind was full of nonsense. It's too scary. I'm such a pure person. How can I do such a thing? I don't even dare to think about it. Wang Feng didn't leave either. He sat cross-legged on the ground and quickly recovered. He had lost a lot of essence blood. If he didn't recover in time, his cultivation might drop. Fortunately, he had the secret character, which allowed him to recover quickly. Otherwise, he would have died. Wang Feng had really lost a lot of essence blood. She watched as Wang Feng sat cross-legged on the ground and closed his eyes. The Ice Emperor stole a few glances and heaved a sigh of relief. But sister, even if he didn't do those things, wouldn't he have seen everything? The Ice Emperor suddenly asked. The Snow Empress was speechless. The Snow Empress glared at the Ice Emperor angrily. Can you not talk about this? The Snow Empress sighed as she said that. As a fairy formed from the purest ice-type elemental energy, she had never encountered such a thing even though she had lived for so long. She had always emphasized that she was invincible. Not even male soul bees could get close to her, much less human males. But she couldn't blame him. Although she had lost her rationality and consciousness due to the blood-soul origin poison, now that she had regained consciousness, she could clearly remember what had happened. Not only couldn't she blame him, but she was also indebted to this human for saving her life. But why did he expend so much effort to save her? The Snow Empress knew that such a loss of essence blood was very taxing on one's cultivation. From what she knew, no matter how much this human tried to recover, his abilities would definitely decrease. She felt a little guilty, so she allowed him to stay and recover. The Lotus Empress could understand why the Snow Empress expended so much effort to heal the Lotus Empress. But why did she do that? He didn't have any feelings for her. At this moment, the feeling of being connected by blood made her heart palpitate. This human was hard to hate, but he was still a human. The Snow Empress' complicated feelings were indescribable. Oh, the Ice Emperor looked at Wang Feng. Why is he so weak? He's the strongest human I've ever seen. He could easily crush those two evil soul masters. He could even resist a Lin Lord's heavenly tribulation. A Lin Lord's heavenly tribulation? The Snow Empress was stunned. She felt the crystal core in her body. She had always felt that this crystal core was weird. Why would a human use such an energy source that contained the power of absolute ice? Sister, you don't know yet, right? The Ice Emperor thought for a moment and told her about Lin Lord Bing Mu. After hearing that, the Snow Empress was silent. End of chapter. Chapter 996. The Snow Empress let out a long sigh when she heard that Lin Lord Bing Mu had rushed into the absolute ice realm to face the heavenly tribulation. Was it really impossible for soul beasts to cross that hurdle? She had known Lin Lord Bing Mu since a long time ago. At that time, Lin Lord Bing Mu already had a cultivation of close to 700,000 years. He was the most ancient and powerful being in the extreme north. After that, he fell into a deep slumber and started to rapidly increase his cultivation and strength. Hence, Lin Lord Bing Mu's figure gradually disappeared over the years. Many young and powerful soul beasts didn't know about this ancient ruler. She didn't expect that he had already disappeared. However, the Snow Empress also understood why this human would spend so much effort to save her. Evidently, it was because of Lin Lord Bing Mu's request. After thinking it through, the Snow Empress felt a faint emotion in her heart. So that's why. However, this human is extremely fickle. The Ice Emperor was a little angry as she said, "He has relations with many human girls. Although he's not bad and has a good character, I can't tolerate this. Those human girls are really unlucky to have fallen for him. Sister, after he's rested, let him leave this place quickly," the Ice Emperor suggested. So what if he's fickle? However, Qing shook her head disapprovingly. Don't say that humans are fickle. Look at those soul beasts. Those are slightly stronger have messed around with many other soul beasts. This is necessary for the continuation of bloodlines. If the soul beasts in the extreme north want to increase the quality of their bloodlines, they have to let soul beasts with stronger bloodlines mate with soul beasts with stronger bloodlines. Qing said righteously. Although Master is fickle, he doesn't abandon her. Furthermore, he can only give birth to stronger bloodlines if he mates with the opposite sex. Isn't that a better thing? The Ice Emperor was speechless. She could only say angrily, Qing, you're being unreasonable. Don't forget that you're a soul beast. You shouldn't have those weird thoughts. However, Qing laughed disdainfully. I wonder who was the one who had those weird thoughts just now. Ice, look at how red your body is now. How dare you scold me? I didn't. Don't talk nonsense. The Ice Emperor said submissively. The Snow Empress shook her head helplessly as she watched the two soul beasts bicker. Ever since she met Emperor Qing, the Ice Emperor had often bickered with her, which was normal. Bing, feel the current, Sister Shui. Then you'll know that I'm not lying, Qing argued. The Snow Empress also glared at Qing. Why did it involve me again? The Ice Emperor was stunned for a moment before he looked at the Snow Empress. Previously, when he first came up, he didn't have the time to carefully examine it. The Ice Empress was shocked when she sensed it. As a fairy of heaven and earth, the Snow Empress bloodline and power were the best in the extreme north. However, the Ice Emperor had been cleansed by the human's green energy in the Twin God Temple and had absorbed some of it. He felt that he had become stronger and was not much different from his sister. But now, he felt as if his sister was the entire far north. He looked at the Snow Empress. Her crystal-like eyes had a tinge of green light, and there was a supreme aura in her calmness. Her exquisite face was still as beautiful as ever, but it gave the Snow Empress a feeling that she was more beautiful and noble. Her entire body exuded a faintly discernible aura that was extremely attractive to soul beasts, but was also extremely cold. Even the Snow Empress, who possessed the power of ice, could not resist it. What shocked her the most was that her sister seemed to have merged with heaven and earth. She was pure, flawless, and beautiful. It was as if no words could be used to describe her sister. Sister, the Ice Emperor looked at the Snow Empress in shock. Do you see? Qing smiled proudly. Look at me. Master made all these. Ice, do you want them? The Ice Emperor looked at Qing. Her aura was weaker than her sister's, but she exuded a faint divine aura, and the energy in her body seemed to be stronger than hers. That aura was too attractive. The Ice Emperor snorted. I'm not envious at all. Even though she said that, the Ice Emperor still looked at that human. All right, let's stop talking. The Snow Empress was silent for a moment before she said, let him recover in peace. The extreme north has undergone such a huge change. He needs to rest and reorganize. Ching Ching nodded and flapped her wings. She looked at Wang Feng reluctantly before she flew down the Jade Essence Tree. The Ice Emperor and the Snow Empress also walked down the Jade Essence Tree slowly. Sister, you've absorbed the origin crystal of the Lin Lord and can control the power of absolute ice. Why don't you unify the extreme north directly? The Ice Emperor said as he walked down. In the past, there were the 5 overlords. But now, those evil soul masters are so strong. If we don't unite in the future, who knows what will happen to our home if such a problem occurs again? You're right. The Snow Empress nodded gently. It's just that I haven't completely absorbed the origin crystal of the Lin Lord. Furthermore, I might need a long time before I can fully unleash my strength. Speaking of which, the Snow Empress had a complicated look in her eyes. Sister might need to sleep for a period of time. It might take many years. You'll only wake up when you've completely absorbed the energy of the Lin Lord's origin crystal or when you undergo your heavenly tribulation. The Ice Emperor exclaimed when he heard this. Sleep? The Ice Emperor was stunned. Yes. The Snow Empress and the Ice Emperor walked down the extreme ice layer. They saw the soul beasts around them walk towards her before they knelt down in front of her, as if they were meeting a queen. Therefore, I'll leave this matter to you and the Green Emperor. You can wake me up when you're in trouble. In the distance, Ching Ching was talking to cowardly Kuan and the others. Sister, when will you start to sleep? The Ice Emperor looked at the Snow Empress reluctantly. The Snow Empress was stunned. She couldn't help but think of that human. After thinking for a while, she said, in a few days. So soon? But sister, you've just woken up. I haven't even gotten close to you. The Snow Empress knocked the Ice Emperor gently. After this, she looked at the vast extreme north. Her eyes gradually lost focus. No one knew what she was thinking. On the continent, news of victory blew across the entire continent like a monsoon. This war didn't last for long. In fact, many humans in the southern cities didn't even know what was going on. However, to the Martial Soul Alliance's inner circle, this was an exciting matter, as evil soul masters were too dangerous, and the situation at the northern borders was very complicated. The Martial Soul Alliance didn't announce this to the public. They didn't want to cause panic on the continent. They only said that soul beasts were rioting. To the humans on the continent, this wasn't anything new. End of chapter. Chapter 997. Evil Soul Master. These 3 words weren't revealed at all. However, to many soul masters and higher-ups, the destruction of evil soul masters was something to be happy about. It was also something to be alarmed about. The impact of this victory to the commoners was probably nothing more than after-dinner chatter. However, the meaning behind it was incomparably great. After this war, the higher-ups of the Martial Soul Alliance, the 2 empires, and the 7 great sects held a meeting. Although the Martial Soul Alliance's future path hadn't been completely decided, at least the general direction was completely unified. Whether it was the 2 empires, the Alliance, or the 7 great sects, they planned to completely let go of the previous heavy burden. They wanted to achieve true unity. As for how to decide the Alliance's future development, the Martial Soul Alliance planned to wait until Qian Renxue appeared. Now that Bibi Dawn was dead, Qian Renxue was considered the successor of the Martial Soul Alliance. At the same time, they wanted to wait for the white-clothed Pope Tiff, who had the highest reputation on the continent, to return to the continent before continuing the discussion. Tang San's side naturally wanted to wait for Wang Feng's return. At the same time, Tang San planned to make another trip to Sea God's Island. He wanted to inherit the true Sea God's deity position. This was because he now had 2 martial souls and 9 soul rings, and he also saved Xiao Wu. After fulfilling the 8th test conditions, he naturally passed the 9th test and inherited the sea god's power. Oceanic City. Tang San's group was planning to go out to sea. I really didn't expect the situation on the continent to reach this stage. Dai Mubai let out a long sigh. I never dreamed that our 2 empires and the 7 great sects would truly unite with a martial soul alliance to resolve the previous grudges. Yes, I originally wanted to change the martial soul alliance. Ma Hongjun was speechless. Who knew that the martial soul alliance would be completely different from what we imagined? After Captain became the white-clothed Pope Tiff, the martial soul alliance seemed to have changed. It seems to have changed the martial spirit palace imperceptibly. As a spy, this is the limit, right? If Brother Feng hadn't been exposed on Sea God's Island, do you think Captain would have really become the Pope? Everyone, needless to say, this was really possible. Now that Bibi Dawn was dead, the white-robed Pope Tiff was the second successor of the martial spirit palace. Even if Ulaina became the Pope, with her feelings for Wang Feng, what was the difference between that and Wang Feng becoming the Pope? Everyone sighed. Third brother, there aren't any true God-ranked experts on the continent right now. Ma Hongjun looked at Tang San and said with a smile, "If we go to the Sea God's Island again, you should be the first person to inherit the godhood, right? However, inheriting the godhood might be very difficult. The 1,000 Dao current from the Alliance hadn't appeared recently. Rumor has it that he's about to pass away. Do you think it has something to do with Qian Rinxue becoming a god?" Tang San was startled. He frowned and said, "If that's the case, then there's no point in becoming a god. If becoming a god requires the sacrifice of other people's lives, then it's better not to become a god." Right now, the Martial Soul Alliance was unified. Even though there were still potential threats from evil soul masters, as long as the continent was united, it would enter a stage of rapid development. If evil soul masters really came knocking on his door in the future, he wouldn't be able to take advantage of them. Under such circumstances, Tang San's desire for the godhood wasn't that strong. Naturally, he didn't want to use other people's lives in exchange for power. "Brother, what nonsense are you talking about?" Xiao Wu said softly. "Even though the alliance is unified now, and I don't have any grudges with the Martial Soul Alliance, we still have to fight. Think about it. If that Qian Rinxue becomes a god, the Martial Soul Hall's voice will definitely be more powerful in the alliance in the future. If you become a god, you can intimidate them. However, it's also a form of deterrence. It's not enough to rely on Brother Feng alone. When facing a true God-ranked expert, only a God-ranked expert of the same level can do it. Furthermore, becoming a God-ranked expert is the ultimate goal of a soul master. How can it not happen just because you say so?" Tang Sin sighed softly and said, "Of course I know. However, Xiao Wu, think about it. If becoming a god is like the 1,000 Dao current and requires the sacrifice of senior possessee, will I be able to live with it?" "Aya, brother, you're so stupid," Xiao Wu suddenly said. "After becoming a god, the power of a god is not something that mortals can compare to. Moreover, after becoming a god, can't you revive a mortal? Senior possessee is not a god. After you become a god, you can cultivate properly. There are definitely strong and weak gods, right? One day, you can revive senior possessee. Not just senior possessee, even Deming and Erming might be able to revive after becoming a god. Their souls are stored in your soul rings." Xiao Wu's words seemed to have enlightened Tang San, waking him up with a start. "Yes, I'm really confused. Why become a god? I can revive them, right?" For a moment, Tang San recalled how Brother Feng had the power to destroy the world with just a raise of his hand. Brother Feng's strength, even if he's not a god, should be very close to it. How can I fall behind Brother Feng? Tang San looked at the distant sea, his heart filled with fighting spirit. "I will become a sea god." It had been a few days since Wang Feng recovered. At the top of the jade spirit tree, a huge amount of energy gathered and poured into Wang Feng's body. The loss of blood essence was extremely serious for him. When Wang Feng really started to recover, he realized it. If a normal soul cultivator lost so much blood essence, even the most precious of treasures wouldn't be able to save them. One had to know that every drop of blood essence contained not only Wang Feng's soul power, but also his vitality. One could imagine. It was also because Wang Feng's current body was comparable to a god's body. His soul power had changed, and he had the esoteric word. After the second brush with the chaotic divine light, his body's potential had been greatly enhanced. That was why he dared to do such a thing. With his current body, it took him such a long time to recover and barely recover a lot. One could imagine, at the top of the Jade Emperor tree. Sister, why has he been weak for so long? The Ice Emperor looked at Wang Feng. In the past few days, the Snow Empress and the Ice Emperor went to various places in the extreme north to check on the situation, in case there were still soul beasts that had not been cleared of the blood soul poison, in case there were future troubles. At the same time, they discussed with the Azure Emperor about the unification of the extreme north. After this war, many soul beasts had died in the extreme north. However, they were comforted by the fact that many of the soul beasts that had died were evil and troublesome soul beasts. The Azure Emperor was very interested in unifying the extreme north. In addition, the extreme north had just gone through this war, and there was a huge reshuffling of power. It was a good opportunity to unify the extreme north. As a result, Qing led the 7 of them and started the plan to unify the extreme north. The Snow Empress said softly, "He has lost a lot of blood essence. For a human of his level, it's already unbelievable that he's just weak. However, his soul power will at least decrease." Hearing this, the Ice Emperor was stunned. Is it that serious? We still have some treasures here that are useful to humans. Should we give them to him? The Snow Empress shook her head gently. It's useless. He absorbs energy very quickly. We don't have any treasures here that can replenish his blood essence. Furthermore, he is very strong. These treasures are not very useful to him. The Ice Emperor sighed softly. After that, there was silence. When will he wake up? The Ice Emperor asked again. The Snow Empress looked at Wang Feng. She had a complicated look in her eyes. Although Wang Feng had saved her because of Qilin Lord Bingmu's request, he had saved her. End of chapter. Chapter 998. However, the loss was too great, and there was no way to recover from it. Actually, there was a way to help him recover. She was a spirit of heaven and earth, and contained the purest origin energy of heaven and earth. At this moment, the blood in his body had changed, and his level of life had increased by another level. The Snow Empress was not sure what it was exactly. If they were like each other, this human should be able to recover. However, the Snow Empress could not make a choice. She suddenly remembered the gaze she had when she woke up that day. That pair of eyes that were as black as the night. The rapid heartbeat caused by the blood connection made her feel as if she was looking at the sea of stars at that moment. She was struggling in her heart. Probably, the Snow Empress pondered. It will take at least a few months. Just as she finished speaking, Wang Feng suddenly opened his eyes and exhaled heavily. He let out a long cry. I've finally recovered. Wang Feng felt the spiritual crystal in his body and smiled faintly. To be precise, he had not fully recovered. However, most of the blood that he had lost had been recovered. One had to admit that the esoteric word was indeed powerful. Being reborn from a drop of blood might be the most abnormal kind, and Wang Feng was far from being able to do it now. However, even though he only had half of the esoteric word, Wang Feng had already cultivated it to a certain level. Most importantly, his spiritual power had taken the last step. This was very crucial. At this moment, in his sea of consciousness, Wang Feng's spiritual power had turned into a true rhombus crystal, and it would slowly become round. Emitting a majestic spiritual power, the green lotus stood on top of this crystal and emitted a bright green light. It seemed to be nurturing some life. Soul crystal, the product of spiritual power reaching the limit. What kind of feeling did this spiritual power have? Wang Feng did not know. However, As long as Wang Feng used his spiritual power to probe, the surrounding heaven and earth seemed to be under his control. This feeling was extremely wonderful. However, the loss of blood was still a result of the loss. One had to know that this loss would damage the foundation even if it was recovered. However, Wang Feng's foundation was extremely strong, and his potential was huge. If it did not work out, he could just consume some treasures that could replenish the foundation. There were many in the Nature Manifestation Valley. Overall, Wang Feng did not lose much. His greatest gain was that his mind power had reached a brand new level. If it was shown, Wang Feng could defeat a demigod expert with the Xianming flying sword. The flying sword could even be controlled to kill enemies 10,000 meters away. This was already a technique that was close to that of an immortal cultivator. Even a deity might be able to do it. However, its power was definitely not as strong as Wang Feng's scarlet green flying sword. Moreover, this was only the strength of the flying sword. As a matter of fact, the increase in the flying sword's power was probably the most insignificant effect on Wang Feng's mind power. Wang Feng wasn't sure if his spiritual power would increase any further. It was possible that the increase of his spiritual power would be extremely slow, entering a stage that required a long period of nurturing. At the very least, this time was measured in years. However, at this moment, the Ice Emperor looked at Wang Feng in astonishment and said softly, "Sister, didn't you say that he would need at least a few months to wake up?" The Snow Empress fell silent. This human was really too amazing. It seemed that she could not use common sense to deduce it. However, she was no longer using common sense to deduce it. Wang Feng sensed for a moment before looking at the Snow Empress and the Ice Emperor. Wang Feng didn't feel awkward when he looked at the Snow Empress after his spiritual power had increased. Instead, he was very calm. "The two of you, I have to take my leave." Wang Feng calculated the time and realized that there were only 3 to 4 months left. He needed to train for a while to activate his body's potential. After being cleansed twice by the chaotic divine light, there was still a lot of potential that had yet to be unleashed. Without mentioning anything else, Wang Feng estimated that he could easily break 500 kilograms with a casual punch as long as he activated his body's potential. He might even be able to reach an even higher level. After absorbing the Ice Emperor's soul ring, Wang Feng's physique had been strengthened. However, the most important thing was that the chaotic divine light had greatly increased his body's potential. After Wang Feng finished speaking, he was about to leave. Wait. Seeing this, the Snow Empress hurriedly spoke. However, she stopped just as she opened her mouth. That was because she didn't know what to say. However, she felt a little weird when she saw him leave just like that. Wang Feng turned around and looked at the Snow Empress. He was puzzled as he asked, "Is there anything else?" Seeing that Wang Feng was acting as if nothing had happened, he was shocked. The Snow Empress suddenly felt a little uncomfortable. She frowned and said, "The extreme north. It seems like there are still some soul beasts that have been poisoned by the blood soul poison. The Azure Emperor has found them over the past few days and gathered them together. We can't deal with them." "Do you want to?" The Ice Emperor was puzzled as she looked at her elder sister. "Is there such a thing? Why haven't I heard of it before?" However, it seems like it's possible. That's because Wang Feng had absorbed the blood soul poison in the ice river that day. However, some soul beasts had mistakenly drunk the water in the ice river or soaked in the ice river. However, it wasn't serious, so they didn't join the army of soul beasts. Wang Feng looked at the Snow Empress and thought for a while. That's true. How could I forget about this? However, this Jade Spiritual Tree Emperor also has the ability to purify the blood soul poison. The last time I cured her of the blood soul origin poison, her ability should have been strengthened after I helped her get rid of it. You can bring those soul beasts here, and the side effects of the blood soul poison should be resolved. I don't think I need to do anything. The Snow Empress opened her mouth slightly when she heard this. She didn't know what to say. At this moment, the Jade Spiritual Tree Emperor suddenly spoke. "Human, I'm sorry, my ability seems to have disappeared temporarily. Why don't you stay here for a few days?" The Jade Spiritual Tree Emperor's voice sounded like a kind old granny. There was a sense of vicissitudes. Wang Feng was stunned. Disappear temporarily? The Jade Spiritual Tree Emperor's ability can disappear? Granny Tree. The Ice Emperor opened his mouth and looked at the Jade Spiritual Tree Emperor. The Snow Empress blushed a little before she regained her composure. All right then. Wang Feng thought for a while. I'll use the Golden Lotus to help you recover your ability. It's best if you can improve it. You'll be able to deal with the Blood Soul poison if you encounter it again. The Jade Spiritual Tree Emperor was speechless. The Jade Spiritual Tree Emperor shook its leaves and said, "Thank you. I'll go down and find a place." Wang Feng looked at the Snow Empress and seemed to understand something. "You can stay here." The Snow Empress suddenly spoke. "Elder sister." The Ice Emperor looked at the Snow Empress in disbelief. "Hasn't this human already recovered? Why is Elder sister still staying here?" "This ice bed of mine is made from a piece of 1,000-year ice essence. It's very helpful for recovery and strength," the Snow Empress said calmly. "Furthermore, I've been feeling a little strange recently. This might be related to your blood. I want to ask about the situation." End of chapter. Chapter 999. Wang Feng pondered for a few seconds before nodding. As a result, Wang Feng stayed at the top of the Spiritual Jade Tree Emperor. The Ice Emperor was speechless. Not only did Elder Sister want to keep this human here, she even wanted to give him the ice bed that she used to rest and train on. "Don't tell me, Elder Sister." The Ice Emperor thought of a terrifying possibility. "Impossible? That's impossible." The Ice Emperor looked at the Snow Empress and said angrily, "Elder Sister, I won't agree." After she finished speaking, the Ice Emperor quickly ran down the Spiritual Jade Tree Emperor. The Snow Empress was speechless. Wang Feng was also speechless. There was one less scorpion. Wang Feng suddenly felt like he had returned to the awkward and weird atmosphere when he first rescued the Snow Empress. "Human, I still don't know. What's your name?" The Snow Empress tilted her head slightly and asked softly. "I'm Wang Feng," Wang Feng replied. "Isn't your title Doctor of Soul Beasts?" the Snow Empress asked curiously. Wang Feng coughed a few times. So the Snow Empress had heard of this title. Qing Qing must have told the Snow Empress everything except for her own situation. "This is just a nickname," Wang Feng explained. "What does this nickname mean?" the Snow Empress asked again. She was like a curious baby. Wang Feng was a little surprised. He had so many nicknames and identities, but no one knew what these nicknames and identities meant. "Oh." Wang Feng walked to one side and was about to sit down. The Snow Empress pointed to the ice bed in the distance. "Sit on it." Wang Feng was stunned, but he still sat down. This ice bed was quite big. It was about 4 to 5 meters long and wide. If it could even fit Qing Qing, it couldn't be small. The Millennium Ice Pith was indeed extraordinary. Wang Feng could feel an abundant ice-type energy just by standing beside it. After sitting on it, his soul power started to circulate rapidly. However, the cold air was very strong. Normal soul masters couldn't even get close to it, let alone sit on it. The Snow Empress also walked onto the ice bed. She curled up her legs elegantly and placed her hand on one side of her thigh. Her crystal-like eyes looked at Wang Feng, as if she wanted to hear what Wang Feng had to say. The meaning, Wang Feng thought for a moment. "I've heard of a story. It's about a human who lost his hands. After going through untold hardships to obtain extraordinary powers, he defeated the evil forces and was determined to protect the world's peace. This human was called Dr. Strange. Strange represented extraordinary power. I'm just casually using it. That's why I'm called Dr. Soul Beast." "Oh." The Snow Empress was stunned. Although he hadn't heard the story in detail, Wang Feng's summary, "Feel free to use it." The Snow Empress used her hand to draw circles on the ice bed. "Why do I feel that it fits your story?" "You possess extraordinary strength, defeated the evil forces, and protected the peace of the extreme north and humans. Fundamentally speaking, the soul beasts of the extreme north should be grateful to you." Hearing this, Wang Feng was taken aback. He pondered for a moment before replying, "Sigh, now that you mention it, it does seem to be the case." The Snow Empress, The Snow Empress suddenly laughed when she saw Wang Feng's stunned expression. She smiled gently, but it was so beautiful that it seemed to be able to melt this ice bed made of thousands of years of ice essence. Wang Feng took a few glances. This lady's looks aren't inferior to mine. Wang Fengxin said, the power of this smile isn't inferior to mine at all. It's a pity that humans and soul beasts can't live in peace. The Snow Empress retracted her smile when she saw Wang Feng looking at her. She sighed softly. Even without those evil soul masters, soul beasts like us wouldn't be able to reach a higher level. We could only transform into humans and cultivate from scratch. Otherwise, we can only become soul rings for humans. Wang Feng nodded. This was the only way to increase one's strength in the Douluo world. Naturally, soul beasts were always the ones being hunted. It was a little deformed. Furthermore, as time passed, the conflict between humans and soul beasts would become more and more intense. Soul beasts would eventually diminish. Thinking of this, Wang Feng thought of spirits. But even spirits had to consume soul beasts. Doctor Strange is determined to protect the world's peace, but no one can protect the world's peace. The Snow Empress shook her head gently. Wang Feng was silent. He suddenly thought, since he came to this world, shouldn't he leave behind something that truly belonged to him? A person's words carried little weight, and a person's strength was weak. A person who was weak naturally didn't need to consider these. But Wang Feng felt that he was strong enough now. Perhaps he should leave behind something that truly belonged to him in the Douluo world? Wang Fengxin's mind suddenly changed. The soul crystal in his sea of consciousness let out a soft cry. A mysterious power seemed to have awakened from this soul crystal and was throbbing. He was shocked. He only had this thought, but why did he feel like he had triggered something? Thinking of this, Wang Feng suddenly recalled his journey. Although it wasn't smooth sailing, with all kinds of cheats, he managed to make it through. There were a few times when he was surrounded by danger. He pretended to be strong and unknowingly flirted with many big and beautiful girls. He had become more handsome, and he had become more powerful. But was it enough? Of course it's enough. As long as I continue like this and continue to become stronger. Wang Fengxin's heart skipped a beat. Please don't have any strange thoughts. That's unrealistic. I just need to become stronger. Who knows, I might even go to other worlds. Even if I don't go, I can just slowly cultivate to become a god. Although it will take a long time for me to reach every level. But Wang Feng saw the helplessness and sadness in the Snow Empress' eyes. He thought of all these and thought of Qing Qing and the 7 fellows. I should still do something. Wang Feng suddenly woke up. No, it's not impossible. After thinking for a while, Wang Feng said with certainty, although the world won't always be peaceful, it's not impossible for humans and soul beasts to be peaceful. Hearing this, the Snow Empress was silent for a moment. She said coldly, it's impossible. Humans need soul rings to increase their strength, so they will definitely hunt soul beasts. But we soul beasts can only increase our strength through our own cultivation. It's just a dowry for humans. Humans and soul beasts won't be peaceful. We soul beasts will only become fewer and fewer until we are on the verge of extinction. Maybe. The Snow Empress also stood up. Her tone was filled with helplessness and unwillingness. Until one day, when I reach the limit of my cultivation and can't withstand the heavenly tribulation, I will become someone else's soul ring. Or maybe I'll revert to human form, lose all my memories, and start from scratch. Then, I'll be discovered by humans, killed, and turned into a soul ring. As she spoke, the Snow Empress looked straight at Wang Feng. The Snow Empress' own prediction was quite accurate. In fact, many intelligent soul beasts probably had such helpless thoughts in their hearts, right? I won't let such a thing happen. Wang Feng took a few steps forward and subconsciously said. The Snow Empress was stunned. She looked at Wang Feng, and there was a hint of embarrassment in her eyes. There was a strange feeling in her heart. It was very comfortable. Finally, the Snow Empress said softly, I believe in you, Professor of Soul Beasts. After speaking, the Snow Empress hesitated for a while. She walked over and gently held Wang Feng's hand. Her beautiful eyes stared at Wang Feng, and there was a hint of special emotions in them. I'll remember your promise to me at this moment. Wang Feng looked at the Snow Empress, who was only a few centimeters away from him. He could feel her slightly cold, jade-like hand. He had a vague feeling that something was wrong. P.S. How many more updates are there tonight? Brother, vote for me. End of this chapter. Chapter 1000. That's not good. Promise? Did I say promise? Wang Feng thought about what he had just said. He wanted to blurt it out. If the Snow Empress really became someone else's soul ring, he couldn't sit back and do nothing. What kind of joke was this? After all, the Snow Empress had half of his essence blood. If she became someone else's soul ring, Wang Feng couldn't bear it. However, the promise that the Snow Empress was talking about also referred to the relationship between humans and soul beasts. Wang Feng faintly thought of 3 words. I've been tricked. However, when she looked at the face that was inches away from her, her crystal-like eyes were filled with hope and joy. Wang Feng opened his mouth, but didn't know what to say. The Snow Empress pursed her lips and looked at Wang Feng in a daze. She wanted to laugh. However, she couldn't help but lean closer to him. A girl's body usually exuded a fiery aura. However, the Snow Empress' body was exuding a faint chill. Wang Feng didn't feel much. He clenched his fist. The Snow Empress' face started to turn red. Wang Feng's hand was burning hot. It wasn't ice cold. The heat passed through his hand and spread from his arm to his heart, spreading throughout his body. She didn't hate it. There was no sun in the polar ice layer of the extreme north. Naturally, there wasn't any heat. She was a fairy, and her body's temperature was much lower than a human's. It was impossible for her to be emotional. However, her bloodline changed after she injected Wang Feng's essence blood. Her body also changed. Just like what the Snow Empress had said, she didn't know. She was an elemental fairy formed from the power of ice. This might not have changed, but he could definitely give her something different. At least, her body's temperature started to rise along with the heat from Wang Feng's hand. Subtly, the Snow Empress felt that Wang Feng's aura was attracting her closer and closer. With the heat from his hand as a catalyst, that aura felt like her heart was being scratched by a little kitty. This was the attraction brought about by their bloodline connection. Wang Feng's mind was very clear. As he looked at the Snow Empress' eyes, he felt that something was wrong. At this moment, a clear voice sounded. Elder sister, I've thought it through. You can let that human. A clear voice sounded. It was as if Pangu's axe had broken through the chaos and cleared up the world. In that instant, the Snow Empress was like a frightened rabbit. She hurriedly let go of his hand and took a few steps back. She turned her body sideways and took a few deep breaths to force herself to calm down. What? The Snow Empress looked at the Ice Emperor calmly. From the fact that the Ice Emperor hadn't said the second half of his sentence, it was obvious. She must have seen everything. The Ice Emperor was in a daze as he stared at the Snow Empress. His topaz eyes were filled with complicated emotions. How can this be? With that, the Ice Emperor ran down again. Wang Feng was speechless. The Ice Emperor was hilarious. She had mentally prepared herself before treating the Snow Empress. But after finding out that it was just her own imagination, she became so sad when she saw that they were just holding hands. Thinking about it, the Ice Emperor probably thought that it was just physical contact. Now that he saw that the Snow Empress was awake, was it because the Snow Empress had fallen in love with him? How could a scorpion have such complicated emotions? After thinking for a while, Wang Feng muttered, You have my essence blood. I can't let you become someone else's soul ring. I know you don't say it. The Snow Empress turned around. Wang Feng, didn't she want to thank me earlier? Why is she embarrassed now? Wang Feng thought for a while. In terms of age, the Snow Empress should be a few thousand times older than me, right? However, I have indeed thought of changing the relationship between humans and soul beasts. Wang Feng continued. However, this idea is somewhat unrealistic. Once I really do it, I'll be able to control the entire world. If I really do it, I might attract attacks from those who don't want me to change the rules. Perhaps I can only change it when I'm strong enough. This won't be too short. This was Wang Feng's great wish that had just been born. In other words, Wang Feng, this salted fish, finally had a real goal. He didn't want to rely on the system to become his main goal. That could only be Wang Feng's secondary goal. This change wasn't just about spirits. If it were just spirits, there wouldn't be much meaning. He still couldn't change the disappearance of soul beasts. Although Wang Feng hadn't read the later parts of the original work, he had a rough understanding of the settings. There were man-made spirits in the later parts. However, even with man-made spirits, it still couldn't change the fact that there were fewer soul beasts. Although he had this idea, Wang Feng wouldn't change it easily. It was very simple. The gods in the godly realm, especially those who had a deep hatred for soul beasts, they weren't willing to see soul beasts grow. The rules of the Douluo world. Wang Feng thought about it carefully and felt that this world was a large-scale soul beast slaughterhouse. Creating such a world with such rules was to weaken the strength of soul beasts. The gods couldn't casually descend to the lower realm, let alone kill so many soul beasts. Therefore, they created such rules to slowly weaken the strength of soul beasts. Otherwise, why would there be such a deformed rule? From what Wang Feng had seen, no matter what world it was, it couldn't exist unilaterally. One side could kill the other side to increase their strength, while the other side could only cultivate. This was a morbid cultivation rule. Wang Feng didn't think much of the first few soul rings, but especially the million-year soul rings. The stronger he was, the more he thought about it, and the more he felt this way. Furthermore, when his underlings were all soul beasts, he felt that this cultivation rule was too sick. However, if he changed it recklessly now, he would be noticed by the gods. If he didn't have the strength and continued to mess around, he was afraid that he would offend the gods and be killed. With Wang Feng's understanding of the gods in this world, the gods were definitely divided by strength. He should only be able to defeat those who had just entered the god rank. No matter what kind of god it was, they had just entered the god rank when they reached rank 100 or above. The gods also needed to cultivate. After making such a wish, Wang Feng felt that his soul crystal core seemed to be dyed with a layer of holy light. As a result, the soul crystal actually started to become round and smooth. There seemed to be some special changes in the unseen world. What great wish did I make? Wang Fengxin thought. At this moment, after hearing Wang Feng's words, the Snow Empress turned around and looked at Wang Feng in a daze. I'm looking forward to that day. The Snow Empress nodded slightly. I'm going to a deep sleep in a few days. I need to freeze myself to absorb the Lin Lord's energy origin and discover the mysteries of my body. This is because I'm not sure whether I'm a soul beast or a human. End of chapter. Chapter 1001. Wang Feng was stunned. He thought about it and agreed. The Snow Empress had used her own blood. Was she a soul beast? He should be considered a human, right? However, as a fairy of heaven and earth, the Snow Empress was formed from pure ice elemental energy apart from her blood. It was also possible to call it a soul beast. Okay, Wang Feng nodded. That's why. I wish to discuss the issue of my blood with you. I hope you can stay a little longer. The Snow Empress lowered her head slightly. To put it simply, he was waiting for me to freeze before he left. All right, Wang Feng said. He was also curious about the Snow Empress' current state. Moreover, it did not mean that he could not train himself in this place. It was still possible. As a result, Wang Feng stayed in this place for the time being. A few days later, the Ice Emperor leaned on the Jade Spirit Tree Emperor in a daze. The Jade Spirit Tree Emperor's leaves were rustling. Compared to the Ice Emperor's sluggishness, the Jade Spirit Tree Emperor seemed quite happy. Up ahead, two silhouettes were engaged in a fierce battle. Granny Tree, did Big Sister fall in love with that human? The Ice Emperor stared straight ahead. The figures fighting were his sister and that human. Fighting was the best way to tap into one's potential and to explore one's own strength. It was also the most direct and effective method. If Possessee could have been Wang Feng's training partner on the Sea God Island, he wouldn't have needed to spend so much time in the Furious Wave's desperate situation. Wang Feng had become much stronger now, and the Snow Empress was no match for him. However, Wang Feng only needed to seal a portion of his strength. "Child, isn't it good that your sister has someone she likes?" The Jade Spirit Tree Emperor's benevolent voice sounded. "Your sister is a spirit of heaven and earth, and there are almost no soul beasts in the extreme north that are worthy of her." It was also difficult for her to develop feelings. Now that she had obtained the human's blood essence, not only had her strength greatly increased, her bloodline had also undergone a great change. "It's perfect for your sister. Besides, if there's such a human who pulled you back from the brink of death, you'll be able to survive. I even gave you a new life. I saved your hometown and saved countless of your people. Even if your sister doesn't like him, she still has a good impression of him. Moreover, this human is not bad. Granny Tree, I'm very supportive." When the Ice Emperor heard this, he fell silent and became a little anxious. "But there's a difference between humans and beasts. No, the blood in your sister's body was given by that human. Your sister can't be considered a soul beast. She also has the bloodline of a human." The Jade Spirit Tree Emperor swayed gently. But this person is very fickle. He had several girls who liked him. When the time comes, he will definitely abandon you." The Ice Emperor continued, unwilling to give up. "Silly child." The Jade Spirit Tree Emperor chuckled a few times. If he was someone capable of doing such a thing, then he wouldn't have been able to do it. You wouldn't have saved your sister back then, and you wouldn't have jumped into the extreme frost ice lake to absorb the blood soul poison. He won't save me, Grandma Tree. He won't save the thousands of soul beasts either. He wouldn't give your sister that Lin Monarch's origin energy either. Since he could spend so much effort to save your sister, he can't be someone who would abandon her. Your sister must have noticed this. That's why she..." The Jade Spirit Tree Emperor's voice rang out. The complexity of human society was much greater than that of the soul beast world. However, the Jade Spirit Tree Emperor had lived for so long, and there were countless soul beasts around her. It wasn't that humans hadn't seen them before, and their experiences were naturally much richer than the Ice Emperor. "Impossible. Even so, my sister will never like a human. I don't believe it. Moreover, this human might not like my sister." The Ice Emperor still insisted on his belief. The Jade Spirit Tree Emperor swayed its branches gently and didn't answer. At this moment, the battle in the distance was about to end. The Ice Emperor watched. This battle had been going on for a long time, at least 3 days. For the two, because it was a training battle, they were recovering while fighting. She had already used her 3 ultimate techniques countless times. Her soul power recovery couldn't keep up with the consumption, and she was panting from exhaustion. On the other hand, Wang Feng was still very calm. He didn't use much soul power, and he could easily dissolve his sister's strength with just his punches and kicks. Any attack from his sister couldn't threaten him. Too strong. He was so strong that he made soul beasts feel hopeless. Even the rank 99 titled Douluo seemed very weak in front of this human. However, the Ice Emperor could tell that something was wrong. The 3 ultimate techniques were his sister's ultimate techniques. Normally, they would consume more soul power when used. Even with his sister's cultivation, she couldn't use them continuously for 3 days. This meant that his sister had become stronger. Or rather, the speed at which she recovered soul power had become faster. At the same time, her ultimate techniques were becoming stronger. Every time she used them, they would become stronger. In the process of this fierce battle, he even created various other moves. The human was feeding his sister moves and cultivating. It looked like an intense fight, but in reality, the Ice Empress could see that her sister was panting with a smile on her face. It was a smile that she had never seen before. His sister had never shown him such a smile before. At this moment, the Snow Empress unleashed a powerful skill. 2 streaks of dazzling icy light shot out from her eyes, and the boundless power of absolute ice was unleashed from her eyes. The surrounding space seemed to have been frozen. The embryonic form of another innate domain was born. Wang Feng's eyes brightened. Furthermore, This domain seemed to contain the characteristics of his blood. It had a powerful recovery effect on his body, and it was endless. His blood wasn't simple. Half of his essence blood contained energy that wasn't much weaker than the origin crystal of the Ice Emperor. Wang Feng hadn't fully recovered until now. It wasn't hard to imagine. He should be able to fully recover before he returned to the continent. Therefore, the Snow Empress' abilities were greatly enhanced. Her cultivation might change as she slowly absorbed more. However, there wasn't an explosive increase. However, the Snow Empress' abilities were greatly enhanced. The simplest example was that her ultimate techniques had become stronger. She consumed less soul power, and her recovery speed had become faster. In addition, she could control her absolute ice power. After 3 days of continuous battle, she slowly awakened a special innate domain. However, it had just awakened, and the Snow Empress couldn't control it properly before it disappeared. As she was exhausted, she fell from midair. Wang Feng took a step forward and hugged the Snow Empress before placing her on the ground. Awakening a new, innate domain has consumed a lot of soul power. Let's rest for 2 days and try again. Wang Feng said. The Snow Empress didn't sweat because of her special body. However, she was panting right now, and her face was red. It was obvious that she was exhausted. Okay. The Snow Empress placed her hand on Wang Feng's shoulder, and her aura changed slightly. You haven't had enough, right? The Snow Empress' brows furrowed. She didn't seem to be exhausted at all after fighting for so long. In a chapter that you're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.